So my name is Connie Swaim. We're going to be talking a lot about issues that you may have fostering dogs. I want to give you a little bit of background about who I am first, for those of you who don't know me. So I started here at the Humane Society of Indianapolis about 11 years ago in their canine behavior program, and we started working with the behavior dogs that were being euthanized, because at that point, basically if the dog failed the temperament test, they were euthanizing them. So we started a behavior program where we started to work with the dogs and see if we could get them to pass the temperament tests so that they could be adopted. That started my interest in behavior. So I became kind of a seminar junkie, and now my main passions are how dogs think, how they learn, what we do that is totally alien to dogs that we cannot help because we are genetically pre-programmed to do these things, but it often gets us in trouble with the dog as well. How we can help dogs fit into a society that is not really designed for them so much, and how to make them happier, but also how to help you help these dogs. Because fostering is important, because a lot of these dogs are in foster care because maybe they're not doing well in the shelter. Maybe they have a behavior issue that is stopping them from being adopted. So not only are you important that you get these dogs out of the shelter, but we also need to change the dog's behavior if the dog's behavior needs change. And if we don't know how to do that, then the dog is basically now not just warehoused at the shelter, but then he's kind of more just warehoused at your house, and we're not really helping the dog. So I really started focusing seriously on just behavior, learning theory, working with dogs. I'm also a canine handler for a search and rescue unit. So I've been doing that for about 12 years now, and I'm on my third dog that I do search and rescue with. And I have 3 dogs, 2 German Shepherds and a Chihuahua, because everyone should have 2 big dogs and a tiny dog, and 4 cats, so lots of animals. When I worked here for the Humane Society of Indianapolis, I fostered over 150 animals in the time I was here, but that includes cats, dogs, and I did multiple litters, so that's not as big of a number as it sounds, because lots of them were tiny little animals. Basically what I want to do here today is first answer questions that you have. So this is going to be very interactive, hopefully. So be thinking of questions you have. Feel free to write them down in the notebooks. And I'm going to go over some basic stuff in the beginning that Tisha gave me that she thought would be helpful for you. But first, let me know a little bit, have all of you fostered at least once? Is there anybody who's never, this is your first time going to be fostering an animal? Okay. So
we have one, we have just a cat.
Okay. Okay. So are you going to foster a dog?
Yes.
Okay. So you're going to start fostering a dog, but you have a cat. So everybody else has fostered at least once or twice, right? Or multiple times. So let's think about dogs. So does anybody here have the unicorn home where you don't actually own a pet of your own? Excellent, right? So that's the hard part. Finding a foster who doesn't already have a home full of pets, right? Or at least a pet. I mean, most of us, we already love pets. That's why we want to foster, and then suddenly we have more pets. I know my dog Batman, I'm sure he used to just go, oh no, why? Why are you bringing another dog home? And I actually had to take a break for him for a while. I got to the point where he was like, I just can't do the whole foster thing. And that's one of the things that you also, for those of you who own your own or have pets already, be really hyper aware of your own dogs. If you start to see behavior changes in your dog is grumpier, seems like he's more willing to snap, you see him showing his teeth more, that may be a dog that's going, okay, I need a break from fostering for a little bit. And that's really important for us to listen to our dogs for things like that. So I thought I would start with just a little bit about canine-human interactions, how dogs think, how we think, canine body language, because dogs are talking to us all of the time. The problem is we are very verbal, Dogs are very nonverbal, but dogs speak body language. Dogs also read us very well. So there are numerous studies that dogs are the only mammals who can do this. That if a human points in a direction and looks in a direction, a vast majority of dogs will go investigate that direction. Primates will not do this. Wolves will not do this. Dogs also read our faces and will interact if they see us interacting. Again, primates do not do this. Only the domesticated dog does this. So that tells us a lot about how we interacted with dogs over the centuries. Somewhere in the past, the dogs that lived started to recognize that they could gain a lot of information from us, and knowing that information helped them survive. So if we understand that our dog is constantly looking at us, constantly making decisions based on what we're doing, it helps us understand the dog more. Your dog also has an acute sense of smell. His sense of smell is 100,000 times greater than your sense of smell. 20 to 25% of his brain is devoted to olfactory. That is a huge chunk of his brain that is just devoted to smelling. So dogs also have an organ, a Jacobson's organ, that we don't really have, that takes that scent and immediately puts it into different parts of the brain. So the dog can be walking along and instantly go, that's a rabbit, that's a female in heat, that's food over there. And he's smelling them all in the same time, and his brain is making decisions based on that. Your dog's nose, if you look right here, you see his nose is wider apart than our nose is, and there's this little dent. Dogs can smell directionally. So their nostrils switch back and forth. So that helps the dog go, okay, the dog in heat is that direction, not that direction. So what does smell help? Why do we care about that? Your dog knows if your blood pressure goes up. Your dog knows if your blood sugar changes. I mean, I have a friend who trains diabetic alert dogs. Dogs know instantly if that blood sugar number goes into a certain range, either high or low. Dogs know when you're gonna have a seizure if you train them to be seizure alert dogs. So dogs are constantly smelling us. Often we get in conflict with that because we don't always like where they smell us. But again, that's where they get a lot of important information from people. So we just need to be aware that our emotions play a great deal into our dogs' lives. And especially if you've ever had something go wrong. You've introduced two dogs and they got into a dog fight. You have this traumatic baggage with you now, so that the next time you introduce a dog, you're gripping the leash like this, your blood pressure is spiking, and your face and your shoulders are like this. And now your pet dog's going, whoa, why are you so freaked out? This is now, I'm on heightened alert now because you are sending danger signals everywhere. And then we accidentally trigger our dog to be more hyper aware. We can't change that. You're hardwired to be this way. But what we can do is know that about ourselves and go, am I gripping the leash? Can I take a deep breath? Can I teach myself a muscle memory voice that is not, no! Can I teach myself, puppies? So if you can teach yourself, puppies, that's a better way to get two dogs that may be about to have an altercation than if you just yell. Your dog especially is going to go, I told you he was bad, right? And now you just confirmed it, you yelled at him too. We're going to take him down. Or the other dog, whose history we don't know, has been yelled at his entire life. You just yelled the one word he knows really well that means he's about to get in trouble. So we now triggered him to do something that he might not have done. So again, this is hardwiring for us. So sometimes it helps if we can think of another way for us to do things. So I like to go, puppies, because lots of dogs will go, oh yes, that's my puppies, or I go, puppies, like that. Because again, if I'm especially a dog of unknown history, I'm less likely to trigger a negative response versus a dog that may have been yelled at, stomped at, screamed at, threatened for all of his life, may have already learned we're a little bit not to be trusted. So that's just kind of our part of it, that we want to start to think of how we smell to the dog, how we look to the dog, and how the things we do often play into the dog. So humans, what are we? We are gatherers, we are nurturers. So we are hardwired to do this. So it's important. If we saw a lost child somewhere and that child was crying, we're going to go up to that child, we're going to gather that child to us, and we're going to comfort that child. We're going to talk to it, we're going to hug it really, really tight, and we're going to look it in the eyes, and we're going to tell it that how much we are going to help this lost child. That's us, that's humans, okay? Unfortunately for dogs don't hug each other, ever. Dogs don't kiss each other, ever. When you see two dogs licking each other's lips like this, or your dog licking your face right here especially, this is not kissing. This is, I'm stressed and I need to tone down. This is, when they start to lick here, this is like, we all need to chill and get a drink, okay? Things are escalating way up here and I need you to calm down. Now, some of your pet dogs who are super smart go, if I lick you right here, you go, oh, Fluffy's kissing me, oh, look at how much he loves mommy. So the dog starts to go, if I want your attention, I will lick you here. That's a learned behavior. That is not your dog kissing you. So this is Dusty, by the way. So what do we do when we meet a scared dog, especially people who don't know any better? Oh, Fluffy, I am here to save you. Do not worry. I love you very much. I am going to take don't just bad things happen to you. I am so sorry. I will help you. Do not worry. So basically, my voice, my verbalness said how much I love you. My body language said I'm here to kill you. So if Dusty never met very many humans before, Dusty's going to go on instinct. He's going to take that as, why are you threatening me? Now, a dog that has lived with humans, especially a dog that has lived with a lot of positive reinforcement, a lot of love and happiness from before he was 12 weeks of age, they learn that we're weird. So most dogs that live with people who have had good relationships with people, they just probably go through their lives going, why do you hug me and love me? But you know what? I really love your cookies here. You have the best treats and you don't really ever hurt me after you do that, so it's just some weird thing you do. So a lot of dogs who live with humans and who have had really good experiences with humans prior to 12 weeks of age, they deal with this much better. But let's say we have a dog that had no socialization or poor socialization prior to 12 weeks of age, or a dog that has unknown history. We don't know what that dog's early history is, or we do know that the dog has had poor interactions. That dog does not have a deep bank account, meaning that that dog is going to be more likely to act on instinct than he's going to be to go, okay, humans are weird when they do this. So direct eye contact between two dogs is a threat gesture. What do humans do when we talk to each other in America? We make direct eye contact. What do we do when we talk to the dog? We make direct eye contact. And what else do we do? Hi, Fluffy. Hi, buddy. Hi. So, and we reach out our hands like this, right? What are these? These are claws. These are talons. If you have a Chihuahua and you're coming in like this, also I'm getting low, I'm being extremely predatory now. So again, I think I'm saying, I'm here to help you. The dog is going, I need to make a decision. Do I run? Do I fight you? Do I growl at you? And then if the dog growls at us, what do? We totally freak out. No! Back, Fluffy! You're not supposed to growl at me. Then the dog goes, I guess I'll bite you. Because growling is so there's a thing called the ladder of aggression. That ladder has a lot of things on it. At the very top of that ladder is snapping, growling, biting. We can punish dogs to the point that they will inhibit their growl. That doesn't mean we fixed the dog and made him that we made him friendly. That means we taught the dog growling gets you in trouble. So the next time he feels that he has to say something, we've only left him with biting. So while I don't want my dog to growl at grandma, I also don't want my dog to think growling will ever get him in trouble. If a dog growls, that's my fault, always. That is never the dog's fault. I accidentally put this dog in a situation that he could not handle, and I want to thank him for telling me how uncomfortable he is. So I never want him to think growling is going to get him in trouble. Always want you to think of growling like your smoke detector. If you take the batteries out of your smoke detector, it is still there, but you're going to die in the fire. So if I take the batteries out of growling, the reason for the growl is still there, and it could come and bite me at some point. So growling is information. Showing of teeth is information. And this is important too when we get into how dogs meet each other. Because again, we tend to freak out when dogs talk to each other because a lot of dog communication looks scary to us. It involves a lot of growling and involves a lot of teeth showing and things like this. So we wanted to start to think about how dogs communicate to us and how we're communicating to them. So especially if you're working, you've got a new foster dog, and especially if we're fostering this dog that is going to be classified in the shy, fearful range, which a lot of the shelter foster dogs are going to be. They've already been rehomed, gosh knows what's happened to them. The best thing you can do when meeting a dog, so let's say I'm meeting Dusty for the first time, and let's say Dusty is already in a room, and I'm gonna come in the room. So I'm gonna open the door, and I'm just gonna stand here with my body sideways to the dog. I'm gonna wait and see what the dog does. If the dog gets really stiff, if he doesn't move, if he starts to lift his teeth, or he looks uncomfortable, I'm going to listen to that, and I'm gonna step out of the room, and the next time I come in, I'm gonna be throwing treats in the room when I go in. If the dog is like, person, yay, and the dog comes up to me, I'm gonna start to come into the room. So this is what's important for us when we're doing canine communication. Dogs have choice. The problem is we keep taking that choice away from them, and that's where we get into trouble. I want that dog to feel that he has a say if he doesn't know me. And again, I'm not talking if there's there's not a fire, you don't have to go in and grab this dog. This is, nobody's in danger. That dog has a say of how he meets me. So I generally try to stay, I'm gonna keep my eye on the dog, but I try to keep my shoulder to the dog, and I'm trying not to make direct eye contact. I am not going to stick my hand out and say, sniff me, I'm friendly. Because his sense of smell knew I was here before I walked in the room. And dogs don't go, oh, you smell friendly, you smell bad, okay? So this can be very predatory to some dogs. This is also what it looks like if a dog is being hit on the nose. So I don't want this dog to go, why are you sticking your hand in my face? That dog already smelled me. But if I stand like this and just keep my hand loose, what's the super social dog gotta do? He's gonna come up and he's gonna bump this hand, because you know why? When you bump the hand, it pets you. And sometimes it has cookies in there. So if the dog comes up and bumps my hand, I'm gonna start to go, oh, hi, Fluffy. And I'm gonna start to pet the dog here, under the chin, versus here on top of the head. So again, this can be very stressful. If you watch Canine Interact, one dog keeps bopping the other dogs on the top of the head, this is not, so it's for some adolescent dogs, this can be a form of play. They just haven't figured out that's not the best way to get it to happen. But it can be very stressful for dogs. And petting them right here, their noses are one of their most sensitive parts. So you never want to grab the snout, you never want to make sure anything hits the snout, anything like that, because it can be very stressful for the dog. So I'm going to go in, I'm going to assess the situation. When I'm meeting a new dog for the first time, I make sure hot dogs rain from the sky. I am not going to say, these are commercial training treats that if you've been in the shelter very long, people have already been throwing to you and you probably don't care about them that much. I'm going to say, you know what, every time I come in the room, I'm going to throw you hot dogs and I'm not going to make you do a darn thing. What do most of us do? Look, here's a hot dog, come and get it. Come and take this hot dog from my hand. You know why? Because I'm going to pet you. Look, yes, good job, you ate my hot dog. Good job. So then the dog is like, oh man, I love hot dogs. Because somebody said, somebody was saying if you feed, I think it was you feed the dog this way, he takes the treat nicely. You feed the dog this way, he grabs it. Why? Because we stick our hands like this, the dog has no choice but to grab that treat with his teeth, and humans go, oh my gosh, did you see that? So the dog learns, you gotta be fast. The treat goes fast. So now I'm like gonna go, I gotta go get that treat really fast, and that's not good. So again, I almost always, with a dog I do not know, I am throwing treats to that dog, and I am also throwing treats behind the dog. I want the dog to turn around away from me. So if he's conflicted, I want him to know that because so many people throughout this dog's life, depending on what it's been, have been trying to get him closer and closer and closer. So something that may not have been that good can happen to him. So I want the dog to go, you know what? I'm not gonna ask you to sit. I'm not gonna ask you to down. I don't care if you can do 3,000 tricks. All I want you to know is that when people enter your space, hot dogs will literally rain from the sky, and you like hot dogs. So the dog is gonna go, this isn't as bad as I thought. Hot dogs rain from the sky, maybe I'll check this person out. So if the dog starts to walk closer to me, I'm gonna reward that dog for movement toward me. I'm still not gonna take a line of treats and make it come to me. So the best way to think about this is, what are you most terrified of in the world? So let's say you're terrified of spiders, and I have got the world's largest tarantula on this table, and I have a line of $50 bills, and the last $50 bill is underneath the tarantula's front feet. So how much do you want the $50 bills? So are you gonna go up and try to snatch the $50 bill? And what if you get up to the $50 bill and the tarantula bites you? Now you just made, that tarantula just made $50 bills dangerous. So I never take treats and have the dog do something. Whether it's the dog is afraid of steps, so you're gonna take treats and make the dog go down the treats following the step, or down the steps following the treats, or we use treats to make the dog get closer to something scary. That's the dog's choice. What instead I'm gonna do is, if the dog makes an effort to do something towards the goal I want, like coming closer to me, I'm gonna reward the dog for making that effort. So now the dog understands my game. He has a choice, he can opt out. If he's too scared, I'm not gonna make him come closer to me. I'm gonna let him chill out a little bit more. If he's willing to interact with me, it's called shaping. I'm gonna start to shape a behavior like coming close to me. So if the dog is doing this, and I've got to this, and I'm petting the dog, and he doesn't look stressed out, things like that, I'm gonna start working with him more. So the next thing I wanna give you is a bit more about what canine body language looks like. So I'm gonna start with your own dogs first, because that's the easiest thing for you to know. Sorry, I wasn't watching you.
You're fine.
Okay, so the first thing I want you to know is, where does your dog carry his tail and his ears when he's relaxed? Do not look at wagging. If you ever watch videos of dogs attacking people or dogs, their tails will always be wagging. Dogs wag their tails for so many reasons, and the vast majority of those reasons do not mean I am friendly. So if you see this really slow tail wag, or this like that tail wag, I'm probably not going closer. But if I have that little pitty whose entire back end is like going like that with his tail, that is different, okay? Tail position is more important, but we kind of need to know about the dog more. We need to know what's normal for the dog. But if I have a dog and I think his tail would normally be like this, and suddenly he flags his tail really high, or he puts his tail really low or tucks it under his tummy, those are both considered social distancing cues. So that's the dog's first line of defense to say, I need social distance from you. So the dog just thinks he said a very clear sentence. I need social space. So if we ignore that, the dog doesn't realize that we don't speak dog or that we have another agenda. He just now goes, okay, well, that's the first thing. So how about if I put my ears way down or push my ears way forward? So again, I may be trying to get you to back off from me. If you're approaching a dog and you see that dog turn his head, or you're working with your own dog, introducing him to another dog, and you see a quick head turn away like this, especially if it looks very deliberate, stop. That's a cutoff gesture. You just want to stop going forward at that point. If you start to see a lot of lip licking and yawning, so again, these are the parts where your superior brain has to come into play. If my dog just ate peanut butter and he is licking his lips, I am not freaking out about that. If my dog just woke up and he is yawning, I am not freaking out about that. But if I'm introducing the dog to a new dog, or I'm introducing this dog to kids or to people he doesn't know, or even if you don't know him, and I start to see a lot of very wide yawns and some very very fast tongue flicks, that's a dog that's showing some appeasement gestures. He's like, okay, you're stressing me out, and I just want you to know that I'm friendly. I don't want to hurt you, but please stop whatever you're doing because it's starting to really, really stress me out. If you see the dog shake, not like he's cold, but like he's flipping water off of himself, like he just, whoo, that's an adrenaline dump. It's called a shake off. We want that. We want that shake off. If I ever, with any time my dogs shake off, I go, oh, good shake off, good puppy. I want them to dump that adrenaline, but I also want to be aware that something was causing my dog to get over-aroused. Like lots of dogs will do shake offs when their owner comes home, or they first get out of their crate because there's like so much emotion. They're like, oh my God, you're home. I didn't think that would ever happen again. But if I start to see two dogs interacting, and I start to see a lot of shake-offs, or I see human and the dog interacting, and I start to see a lot of shake-offs, I'm going to start to wonder what's going on with that dog. Other things to look for are also normal behaviors, but will be abnormal in the context. So if I have a dog that suddenly starts scratching himself, and I know he does not have fleas, he starts to lick himself or sniff himself, especially his side or genitalia, or he starts heavily sniffing the floor. Those are displacement gestures. So that's the dog's way of going, I don't know. I have no idea what to do right now. So I know how to sniff myself. I'm going to sniff myself. I know how to scratch. I'm going to scratch myself. So, but again, if my dog has allergies, or somebody just dropped a whole bunch of treats on the floor, I might still see some of these same behaviors. So when I talk to people about canine communication, this is where the human part of it starts to get in the weeds. Because I get, oh, he yawned, I don't know what to do. So we can't take all the stress away from your dog's life. You have stress. We all do things we do when we're stressed, right? And that's okay, but what we're looking at is the stress going up? Is the dog getting more and more stressed in a very small space, physical space, or time space, meaning that not much time has passed? What do I think is causing that? Can I move away from the dog? the sky, things like that. So when we talk about canine communication, that's what I want everybody to understand, is that your dog is always communicating with you. He is. It's just that when do we notice dogs the most? When they do things we don't want, right? So we notice dogs that jump on us. We notice dogs that grab our arms and shake. We notice dogs that nip at us, that grab our clothes, that take our shoes. Those dogs get so much of our attention, and this dog that's just sitting here beautifully, not even moving a muscle, really gets our attention. So this behavior will never last unless you have a stuffed dog like Dusty, because this behavior never gets reinforced. Negative intention is attention. Dogs do not understand the concept of the word no any more than your 1 or 2 year old. You're gonna say, don't take those cookies off the table, and you leave the room. Really? Do we think that the 2-year-old is gonna leave the cookies or maybe just go and take the cookie while you're standing right there, right? So we have a habit of saying no, because what does no do? It rewards us heavily, especially if you use what I call your parenting voice. No, stop that. And the dog's like, okay, I'll stop it for right now because you're scaring me. But you did not teach the dog not to do it again. And that's where we get stuck. People say to me all the time, he knows not to get in the trash. Really? And how do we know that he knows this? And so people go, well, I tell him no, and he leaves the trash. So he knows not to do that. I say, well, when does he get in the trash? When I'm not in the room. So again, how do dogs live in the wild? They find trash. They're consummate scavengers. They find something to eat. If no one else is there, they're gonna go, bonus, I'm gonna eat it. If another dog is there, they might go, who really wants this food? So one dog might drive another dog away. So sometimes when we yell no, that's what we're doing. But if we leave and the dog goes, well, I guess you didn't want the steak bone. I mean, obviously if you wanted it, you would have taken it, right? So it's still in the trash, it's obviously mine now. So we get in this habit of assuming that because a dog momentarily stops a behavior, that we have somehow taught that dog never to do that behavior again. And that's generally not what we've done, but we're heavily rewarded because we got the behavior to stop, even if it was just for a moment. Dog's barking out the window, shut up! The dog, what's he gonna do? He's gonna momentarily stop barking to see why you're barking. He's like, well, did you see something better? Don't bark at that. But we're like, oh, thank God, he shut up, right? And then what's he gonna do the next time the mailman walks by? He's gonna bark out the window. Because you know what? If you bark at the mailman, he will always leave. And if you do not bark at him, gosh knows what will happen. He'll probably just stay. So barking is self-rewarding. Dog sees something out the window, he barks at it, it will leave every time. So from his perspective, he is doing exactly what he is supposed to be doing. And all you do when you yell at him is momentarily get him to go, what? Did you see the guy? He's like, look, bark too. Help me make him go away. Oh look, we won. Yes, he's gone. Thanks for helping me out, Mom. So again, we fall into this trap of thinking that we are teaching the dog something, when in reality we are probably not teaching the dog what we think we are teaching the dog. So especially when you get your dog, a foster dog for the first time, so you probably already know the rules of 3, but we'll go just in case. So it takes 3 days for a dog coming out of a shelter system or any situation after a dog fight, after a move to a new home. It takes about 3 days for that dog to even begin to decompress into your home. That first week you have a dog, he should not go anywhere. Not PetSmart, not the groomer, not the veterinarian, unless he needs to go to the veterinarian. You don't want that dog to meet everyone in your family, all the kids and neighbors. This dog should decompress for at least a week before you start, and you need to know him. You need to know what his body language looks like. So many people, when I talk to them that they get in trouble with their dog, they take it straight from the shelter and go, I'm taking it to PetSmart because it's like Disneyland, right? He's gonna pick out all his toys and he's gonna get socialization because the shelter said he needs socialization. So I'm gonna take him to PetSmart, and guess what? He bit someone. Oh my gosh. So so again, would you take a child you just adopted from another country who does not speak your language to Disneyland as soon as that child gets off the plane? We're not going to do that, but we misconstrue what we think of the dog. So at around the 3-week mark, that dog is finding a routine. He's finding your routine, he's finding the other pet's routines, he's finding his life. Usually when I talk to people and there are issues, it's right around that 3-week mark. Suddenly people will go, wow, when I got him from the shelter, he never barked. He was like he was so sweet. He just always laid on my couch when I came home. And then at 3 weeks, oh my gosh, I came home and he had destroyed my couch. He's barking at everything out the window. What did I do wrong? You didn't do anything wrong. The dog finally feels normal and feels that he can express whatever normal is for him. Right around 3 months, you're gonna know who this dog is. And I know that depending on the foster, and some people may not have a dog 3 months, but when I transition the dog from my home to the adopter home, I also want them to understand what this dog looks like in these transition periods. So around 3 months, whatever behaviors you have, if there are behaviors you need to change, those are the behaviors I would focus on. A lot of times until that 3-month mark, unless I have a dog that's growling at people or are risk to people or other dogs, I don't spend a lot of time trying to change behaviors because I'm not sure what behaviors are going to need change, and I don't want to spend a lot of time and effort if the dog just needs to decompress a little bit more. Now that doesn't mean I'm not training the dog, so I might take the dog for a walk, and if he looks at me, he's gonna get a treat. I'm not gonna necessarily ask him to look at me, but if he does look at me, I'm gonna give him a reward. So instead of saying, I'm going to train this dog to do something, I'm gonna say, does this dog offer behavior ever that I want? Oh, look, he does. Unless he's like biting everyone in your home 24/7, this dog is going to offer you voluntarily a good behavior. You have to notice that good behavior and reward the dog. It does not have to be food. It can be good dog, but it has to be noticed. So dogs generally will only repeat behaviors that pay them. So if your dog jumps on you, jumps on the counter, gets in the trash, whatever nuisance behaviors your dog has, he is being rewarded for those behaviors. Dogs will not repeat a behavior that does not pay them. So we're already good at training our dogs. We've trained them to jump on us. We've trained them to take things and run from us. We've trained them to grab our arms and shake. We've trained them to pull on a leash. We have trained our dogs a lot of stuff. The problem is we didn't mean to do it. So we have to flip it and go, okay, you know what? I'm gonna notice this dog. Look, this dog walked up to me and he still had 4 feet on the floor. I'm gonna say good dog to this dog. Dog jumped on me. I'm not gonna say bad dog to that dog. I'm just gonna walk away from that dog. So I'm gonna ignore that behavior because I don't want that behavior. So it's just important for us to start to think about, okay, what is the dog saying to me? What am I inadvertently saying to that dog? And does the dog, what kind of communication level are we having? But knowing how dogs think and how we think really, really help us start to get on a better path with this dog. So before I leave this and go to more of how do you introduce the dog to your house, especially if you have another dog or pets, what questions can I answer so far? your dog, anything canine communication wise or decompression wise. Any questions? Yes.
I just had a question about like what would be better, like short-term or long-term fostering for like pups that need like a break from the shelter, right? Like around how long?
So it's a good question. And so the ASPCA has probably done some good research, but we know that even dogs that get an overnight break. At first people didn't want to do that, overnight breaks, because we thought that, well, that's going to be sad, right? But statistically, from what people are finding, this doesn't seem to be the case for a lot of dogs. So the big question is, when you're fostering, what is the purpose of the foster? Is the purpose that this dog is not being adopted because of a behavior issue? And can you, by fostering this dog, change that behavior issue? You're probably going to need longer, right? We're not going to change that in a day or two, probably. But if I just have a dog that is just getting stressed out in the shelter and I want to take him home for a couple of days, let him walk around, see if he feels better, that's different. So with a dog like that, I'm probably not going to spend any time doing anything other than making sure that his time with me is full of really good food and happiness, and that he gets lots of rewards for offering any behavior that is happy behavior. Does that help answer the question?
Yeah.
Perfect.
We did Less Than Freedom for a day before the pandemic.
Yep.
And saw how that worked in a lot of programs. So.
Yep. So I like things like that. Other questions? Yes.
So when you were talking about weaning an animal with treats,
Mm-hmm.
can you expand on crate? Like that's my go-to for crate.
Good question. And that's a good question. I will go to it now. Because crating was one of the questions that Tisha had said that you guys might have. So that's an awesome question. So this is going to be the same thing for anything, okay? Whether you are getting a dog to go down the stairs, getting a dog to interact with something scary, or getting a dog to go into a crate. So first, I have to have something that this dog really wants. So this is my crate, and the door is right here. And this is my dog. I'm gonna have some treats, and I'm gonna throw the treats away from the crate door, but I'm gonna stand here, and I'm gonna stare into this crate, because what do we know? Dogs interact with things that people stare at a lot of times. So I'm gonna be throwing treats over there, and some treats here. I'm pretty soon, because I'm just standing here, and the door is open, the dog is probably gonna go, why are you staring in there? Did you put food in there? And so the dog might come and sniff the crate door. I'm gonna throw a bunch of treats for sniffing the crate door, and I'm immediately throwing a treat away. And then the dog is gonna go, well, that was fun, I sniffed the crate door and I got a bunch of food. So the dog will hopefully come back, because I'm gonna be just staring. I'm not talking, I am just literally focused like that, inside that crate is steak. And I'm really looking at that steak. And the dog is gonna be going, I'm gonna go check out that crate again. Dog comes up, I'm gonna reward the dog for investigating the crate. Dog sticks his nose across the plane of the crate. Now I'm gonna drop a treat inside the crate, and I'm immediately calling the dog out. So these look like the same behaviors to us, kind of. We're getting the dog to go into the crate for a treat, but in one, we're tricking the dog. The dog goes in and gets the cookie, then we close the door, and the dog goes, wait a minute, don't fool me once. And so in this way, it's called shaping, and what I'm doing is I'm rewarding the dog for making a choice, but I'm setting the dog up so that he will be the most likely to make my choice. Now, if I have a dog that is super crate aversive, he has already had bad experiences with the crate, I'm probably gonna see that crate by throwing a bunch of treats in the crate and I'm walking out of the room. He goes in and he eats the treats, I'm gonna walk back in, I'm gonna throw a bunch of treats in the crate, I'm gonna walk out of the room. Because I don't want him to think that going into the crate, eating a treat means the human is gonna be right there to close the door. Once I've been throwing those treats in for a while, I'm gonna stand there and I'm gonna see if the dog will voluntarily go in, and then I'm gonna reward him for going in, and then I'm immediately calling him out. So when I play crate games with my dog, with dogs that I've not met before, or with new dogs to me, 90% of the time they go in that crate, that door will never close. The door only closes on the crate 10% of the time, or less. So that, because again, most of us, what we do is we only crate the dog when we need to crate the dog. So the dog learns, you put me in this box, you close the door, and you leave me for 8 hours. Well, I don't like this game. So if you instead go, most of the time, hot dogs rain from the sky, we're gonna play this game where you run into the crate and run back out again. You run into the crate and run back out again. The door doesn't close. Then sometimes I'm gonna close the door, but then I'm gonna immediately open the door again. And then I'm gonna close the door, and then I'm gonna walk out of the room. Then I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna let you out. So we want the dog to make a choice. Now, this is not for dogs that have either separation anxiety or crate anxiety. This is just for a dog that we are crate training for either the first time or a dog that's maybe a little bit worried about the crate. So I'm gonna talk more about crate anxiety and separation anxiety, but this is the same thing for steps. So I have a dog that doesn't wanna go up or down the steps. I'm gonna stand here at the top of the step. Well, if I want the dog to come up, I'm gonna stand 2 steps from the bottom. If the dog approaches the steps, I'm gonna toss him a treat, then I'm gonna toss a treat far away to reset him. Comes closer to the steps, he's gonna get rewarded. I'm gonna wait a few seconds once he's coming back and forth. I'm gonna see if he goes, how am I gonna get a cookie that time? I can't go to the step. Most dogs will go, I need to try harder, right? So the dog will come closer to the step. He may not put his paw on the step, but he comes closer, I'm gonna reward that behavior. So part of human nature is also, we see behavior in huge chunks like this. We go, okay, I want the dog to go up and down the steps, and I'm gonna do this in 5 minutes. So I might want the dog to first go, I can put a toe on the step, and we're gonna be done. Training is over for the day. Because again, what do we do with dogs? We go, you know what? I almost had him. He was almost all the way in that crate. I bet if I work another 10 minutes, he's gonna be in that crate or on the steps and he's gonna be happy. And then what happens? The dog gets stressed. We lose everything we just did. We're frustrated. The dog is frustrated. No one wants to play this stupid game anymore. And the next time you try the behavior with the dog is gonna come into the game going, well, the last time we played this game, it didn't end so well for me. So always, always, always get 10 to 20 treats and be done. Always try to end, always try to end any kind of interaction when you are trying to shape a behavior. Shape it into like something really, really easy for the dog to do, okay? Instead of something that we're like, again, it's human nature. I want the dog to go up the steps, right? I obviously don't want the dog to just put a paw on there. That's silly. But from the dog's perspective, putting a paw on those steps could be a big deal. So what you're doing is building confidence. You are telling a dog that is already fearful, shut down, whatever experience he or she has had with humans in the past, that they get to make a choice. Just like us, I can say, okay, guess what? We're all gonna get over our fear of clowns today. And everybody's gonna go up and hug Bopo the clown, okay? And he's gonna hug you back. And we're gonna love Bopo the clown, no matter what you say. So, might work for some of you who aren't very clown phobic. It's not working for me. I'm like gonna probably have a meltdown. I'm gonna be punching Bopo the clown, okay? So, that's called flooding. And we flood a lot. So flooding is your dog, somebody told you your dog needs socialization, so you take your dog to PetSmart. That's flooding. Flooding is Indiana Jones, Raiders of the Lost Ark. He's afraid of snakes, he falls into the pit of snakes. That is flooding. Flooding may help you. You may live through it, but what if you don't? What if you become catatonic? What if you now say, yep, the person holding that leash made that happen to me, I no longer like the person who is holding that leash. So that's the difference between flooding and true socialization. True socialization is more of shaping. So let's say that, so this really happened to me. I'm on a walk with my new puppy. He sees a fire hydrant. Lots of puppies, I don't know why. Fire hydrants are dangerous. So my dog is like freaking out, laying down, splayed out, like this fire hydrant is probably going to come and kill us at any moment. He's trying to back out of the harness. I walk away from the fire hydrant. I take all the pressure off the leash. I say, okay, buddy, you are afraid of this fire hydrant. I'm not gonna make you come closer to it. As soon as he calms down, we turn around and we look at the fire hydrant again, but we're farther away. And I say, look at that fire hydrant. He goes, I'm looking at it, and I go, hey, here's a cookie. And he goes, oh, that was fun, I had a cookie. I said, let's walk away from the fire hydrant. Let's go back and look at it. Every time we look at the fire hydrant, you're gonna get a treat. When we walk away from the fire hydrant, you're not gonna get a treat. And every time, if he was still walking forward and going toward the fire hydrant, he was getting a cookie. If he stopped, that was fine. We would turn around and walk a few steps away. So he would go, okay, this is my choice. I am getting paid to look. And in less than 5 minutes, he did a nose touch to the fire hydrant. Because I've done a lot of work with nose touches with him. So he knew that touching things with his nose paid a lot. But if I had taken him and dragged him to the fire hydrant, or if I had put a line of treats to the fire hydrant, and he got to the fire hydrant and that last treat, he's sticking way out like this, and then something happens, like static electricity or something like that. Basically, we just made that fire hydrant scary. So that's kind of a long answer to your question. But basically, when I look at helping dogs, I want to shape them. I want to give them a choice. And again, I'm not talking your dog pancaked in the middle of 421, and you can't wait there for him to get out and make a decision to cross 421, right? But if I can, I'm going to always let the dog have as much choice as possible and still be able to get what we want out of that behavior. So before we go into dogs meeting dogs and more into separation anxiety, things like that, let's just take a break. Like I said, there are restrooms out here. Everybody feel free to get a drink of water. If you have questions, please write them down so you don't forget them. I will just come back in a few minutes. One of them, two of them, all three of them. What ideas do you have? What can I train Cindy to do?
I'm staying out of this because I will be in so much trouble.
Write her name and get a cookie.
Whoa. Okay, that might be hard. Not saying you do it. What if I want Cindy to simply interact with the, put hand sanitizer in her hand?
Sure.
We're all doing that now, right? So we can try that, see if it works. All right. All right. Oh, we did have other people out there.
Oh, they thought they were allowed back in. Oh.
Nope.
All right. Come on. Good, Cindy. Do it here.
Do you want a treat? Do you want a treat?
What? My dog is broken. Why is she not doing anything? She's not doing anything. Cindy, go to your crate outside the room. Please.
Try licking your face, see if that helps.
Why didn't my dog do anything?
We didn't tell her anything. We didn't train her.
What would I have told it to do? It doesn't speak English.
You did reward her
For anything. I just stared at stuff.
Do you first
was stressed. Was she getting stressed there for a little bit, right? She wasn't getting anything, right? All right, come back in.
Come on.
So Cindy, we're gonna pretend that you already understand the word yes means you get a cookie.
Okay.
Got it? Get busy. Yes!
Is it a milk though?
I think so.
Yes! Yes! Yes!
Like this lady.
Cindy, go to your crate. Can I make this game easier?
Andy, show her.
Yeah, you're not looking at things as you're looking at her, right?
Yeah, I was looking at it for a long time.
Okay.
But what if I do this?
Eliminate distractions.
Yep. And I can do one other thing. I can put it between me and Cindy. All right, come in. Yes.
Got it, right?
Yes. All right, go to your crate. So I was looking at this the whole time, right? But see, what's Cindy doing? She's now offering behavior, right? At first she came in and she just stood there. But then I started rewarding her for making choices. Now she's making choices. Or not, I don't know, choices I want. But you guys are also heavily rewarding Cindy with your laughter, right? So she is getting rewarded for making some choices. So we can see, does she notice when I come in again, she comes in again, that I have now moved this. So maybe that will help make it more, hey, do this, okay? All right, Cindy, good girl. Cookie the cookie.
It's okay, she won't beat you like you do.
Yes. 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 This is a border collie.
Now, Connie, we can only hold about 12 hours of video, so we
Yes. So I can up the rate of reinforcement. Yes. 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 Okay, go to your crate one more time. You're doing a good job. So how obvious is this seem to you guys? Right? It is completely obvious what I want. Well, I told you, right? But look what's happening. This is when we get, this is like the best example I can give of how we're speaking in a different language. We're thinking, I want this behavior, right? And she's like, she's moving her feet. So she's going, it's my feet, it's my hands. So she's trying different behaviors, but she's not like thinking, I need to interact with something that is right in front of me. So again, dogs do the same thing. All right. So we'll have Cindy come in one more time because we only have 12 hours of video. All right. Come on, Cindy. Come on, babe. You're doing a good job. Come on, babe. Yes. 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 Sorry. Yes. 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 So we're going to quit here because we just made a huge amount of progress, right? Well done, Cindy. We were trying to get you to pump.
Pump, I'm so glad my dogs figured that out.
All right. So, and thank you, Cindy. That was awesome. Thank you very much. So, that's taken from a game called Portal, which is an all-day game where it's no dogs. It's just understanding learning theory, where we each train each other, and you just get a whole bunch of things thrown at you, and you have to decide through my shaping, how good I am at shaping, what I want you to do. But that's a perfect example of why we get into trouble with the dog. So Cindy is perfectly capable of interacting with that pump, right? And it's even a behavior that we have been trained to do for the last 2 years. Go up to a pump, sanitize our hands. But Cindy got stuck on foot movement. She was moving her feet, she was getting closer to me, so she was offering me a ton of behavior. It wasn't the behavior that I wanted her to offer. So that's why I would keep sending her out of the room. Because if I make, so how did you feel? Did you feel frustrated, especially in the beginning?
Yes.
Yeah.
What does she want?
Right, what does she want?
Right.
Why am I not getting a cookie
Right.
for this? So by sending her away, I can reshape my training plan. Instead of the dog just standing there going, like being more and more frustrated, I'm gonna put the dog away somewhere so that the dog, A, can't practice whatever these superstitious behaviors the dog is offering, like doing all this moving, and I can try to set this up so that the dog is paying more attention. So, did you notice that all I was doing was staring at the bottle of hand sanitizer?
At the end.
Yeah,
I
okay.
finally got it. I was like, what is she looking at? Is she looking at the corner of the table? Is she looking at
And I kept moving it.
Yeah.
I kept
Okay.
moving where it was. So again, if I can't do something that would seem relatively simple, because somebody wanted you to write your name. I'm like, Sissy, that might have been really hard. It might have been really hard. So I just wanted something simple. And that was difficult, right? Because we weren't speaking the same language. And I can't explain to Cindy, because if she's a dog, I can't have a conversation that said, walk in here and pump some hand sanitizer on your hand, right? So I just wanted to do that as a little break from, so you could kind of see more how learning theory works, because it doesn't matter what species the learner is. Behavior drives learning. What gets rewarded drives learning. So it's important for us to know, to make sure that when we're working with the dog, that our training, the thing we want to do is not just in our minds, because it's very clear in our mind, right? Dogs cannot be probably like what we think of as stubborn. So we label dogs as stubborn. Or people say all the time, he knows what to do. Cindy knew what to do, right? She just didn't do it. So we put these labels on the dog, and that puts a barrier between us and the dog. Aggression is another one. So when we label dogs, that dog is aggressive, that dog is stubborn, that dog is a bad dog, that dog is a hyper-mouthy dog, that dog is a fearful dog, we put these labels on the dogs. So aggression means different things to all of us, right? To me, aggression would be a dog that charged in here and bit me with absolutely no warning and kept biting me. But a lot of people, I get puppy clients all the time who go, my puppy is aggressive. I'm like, what's he doing? He's biting my shoe. It does sound dangerous. It does. But if those puppy parents go through their beginning stages of life with this puppy, and they are labeling that puppy as aggressive, or you get a foster dog and someone has already labeled that dog with a label, we become predisposed to thinking that dog is somehow broken. So the other trap we get into is going, well, I've worked with 55 dogs and all of them have done X, but this one, there's something wrong with this one. This one is broken. Every other dog has done X, but not this dog. So Denise Finzi, who is a really famous dog sport person, and you can take lots of her classes online, her saying is train the dog in front of you. Because we get in that trap of going, the last dog was perfect. What is wrong with this one? So then we get into a stumbling block of going, okay, I'm done with this dog, he's frustrating me. So dogs are not gonna get up in the morning and go, you know what? I refuse to do anything you say today because you made me mad yesterday. So, or I'm gonna pee on your shoe, because people always think that, oh, he peed on my shoe, he's mad at me from something I did yesterday. I yelled at him yesterday and today he peed on my shoe. Or the dog only pees on my bed, he's trying to dominate me. So A, even the wolf people don't want you to just get rid of the word dominance. Get rid of the word alpha, not happening. Your dog does not have opposable thumbs. He is not taking over the world. So he can sleep on the bed, he can walks in front of you, he can go through doorways ahead of you. You don't have to spit in his food to make him think that you are the alpha person in his life. So you don't have to push him to the ground. So if you ever watch wolves interact, it is never force, okay? So I highly encourage, if you've never gone, go to Wolf Park up in Lafayette. It is like one of the best places to understand canine behavior. So one of the things they'll tell you is, if there was a super dominant wolf in the wolf pack, the wolves might kill it, because that much stress is hard to live with. So if you're living with a dog that's constantly telling the other dogs what to do or stopping behavior, that's stressful. And if dogs are fighting, like let's say there's resource guarding, a dog comes up to a bone, choices happen. Two dogs come up to a bone, they're gonna have a conversation. One dog might go up high, one dog might put his teeth out, one dog might go, I really didn't want that bone, and I'm gonna walk away from it. But both dogs might go, you know what, we both want the bone, and so we're gonna fight for the bone. But at no point does one dog squash the other dog to the ground, make it submit, and then go get the bone. It's always choices. So one dog can walk away, always. So when we talk about dominance, it's really a hierarchy, and it only happens over resources. Bedding, humans, nap places, food. Some dogs, though, a dropped Kleenex can be a resource. So globally, resource guarding dogs are a whole other issue. But dominance and the words alpha, again, put thoughts in our mind that is probably not the right thoughts. You can't believe how many people say, my puppy bit my 2-year-old, so I bit my puppy's ear, because that's what the mother dog would do. The mother dog isn't care if her puppy bit your 2-year-old. And a mother dog might grab a puppy's snout, but dogs have a sensor in their canines that tell how much pressure they're putting on, and they have a different set of pressure. It's not that generally this, and then most of the time, unless there's something really wrong with the other dog, there's never a lot of force. So people are always saying, oh, someone told me that I have to twist his ear, or someone told me that I have to push him to the ground and make him expose his belly because I need to be alpha to him. So throw all that stuff out. It's been so disproven over the years. If anybody wants, because you don't know me, but if anybody wants actual PhD proof of what I'm saying, send me an email. The American Veterinary Society of Animal Behaviors has put out several really good position statements on dominance and on humane training, and why punishment-based training is never, ever the right thing to do with a dog. So these are not just me. This is not me saying this, okay? This is people with PhDs in animal behavior. And I always like to send people these position statements, because anyone can say anything. There are no laws to be a dog behavior trainer specialist. You can all leave here today and say, hey, I took a class with Connie Swaim, I'm a dog trainer now. And there is nothing stopping you from doing that, okay? So a little segue there. So, okay, you've got a foster dog, you've got a dog at home. So, what ways do you guys, and you can just throw them out. How do you introduce dogs now? Dog walk? So like parallel? Dog walking? Two people?
We usually start at a distance.
Okay, so 2 people, each person has a dog. Perfect. What else?
One big cage, you know, there.
Yes. No.
No.
Good. I actually know someone who did that.
Getting to sniff each other's, each one of ours has a crate, so they get to sniff each other's crates. But that's it. And then they walk, and then that's it. That's all you get for right now, is just a sniff, and then walk away.
Okay. Other things.
We normally compartmentalize our house, put some dog gates up, kind of double them up, One of ours likes to jump over it, so you have to put 2 of them. And, you know, so they know they're there, but they each have their own space. Hey, if I want to go away, we can go away.
Okay. Anybody else have anything that you haven't talked about? What things have gone wrong? Does anyone have what dog intros have not gone well? Or have all of your dog intros always gone well? All right, I'm done here. Perfect.
We had a dog fight situation, but we had the dog for like 5 months before it happened.
What was the situation?
So I didn't realize our foster was resource guarding until it was too late. I thought my dog was resource guarding due to his reaction to the other dog resource guarding. So they had gotten into like a little scuffle once over it, but all of the behaviors seemed to be coming from my dog. So I was trying to somehow correct him, but it wasn't him doing it.
Yeah.
It was the foster doing it. He was just doing it very quietly and like reserved, and I just didn't notice. I didn't realize until it was too late.
So that's a good example. So the best thing to do is know your dog, right? So I make a lot of decisions on when I introduce dogs to my dogs, knowing my dogs. So I prefer to introduce dogs in the largest space possible. In a perfect world, you would all have a half-acre fenced yard. And I like to have dogs dragging 20-foot long lines, and I generally like these, the neoprene, because they don't tangle, and you can get these in lots of different lengths. So I'm usually going to have the dog dragging a 15 to 20-foot long line, because again, what do most of us do, especially when it comes time to let the 2 dogs sniff each other? We're like, oh my God, what if it doesn't go well? I'm gonna jerk the dog back. So we tighten up on the leash a lot. So if I know my dog, and I know that my dog's not gonna go in and start a fight, my dog is usually loose. He's dragging his long line. He's gonna make good decisions. He's gonna either decide to come up to the dog. I also know my dog well enough that if my dog refuses to come anywhere near the dog, and even if I don't see anything, my dog is not meeting that dog. I trust my dog enough to tell me that he sees something that I am totally unaware of. But what I want to do is walk this dog around, and I want to see, as long as this dog isn't freaking out, I want to try to keep my leash. I always want to you and my leash, and put a break. Do not do this, okay? Because if something happens, you're gonna go down, or you're gonna tweak something really bad. The best thing to do is use your thumb as a handbrake. So I can now do this. If I need to put the brake on, I close my hand. Otherwise, I'm letting the leash go in and out so that the dog does not feel tension. Because again, human emotion. Oh my gosh, they're about to fight, I'm gonna jerk the dog back. And the dog goes, I was just having a conversation and now you scared me. And so now I have to bite this dog. Or I have to turn around and bite you, or I have to turn around and bite the leash. So I love parallel walking. So especially if you don't have a big yard, I love parallel walking. And I'm gonna have treats in the beginning. And I'm gonna reward both dogs for looking at the other dog and then looking away. So unless I'm lunging, barking, spitting, doesn't look like it's going well, then what I'm gonna do is I want one dog to go ahead of the other dog. It'd be great if this dog would pee or poop, the one in the front. And we want it to walk along and be really slow, and we want to let this dog do a lot of sniffing, and then we want the dog behind to come up and sniff, especially if this dog peed. We want them to sniff where the other dog went. And then we're going to flip so that the other dog is walking in front. If that's going well, I'm going to let this dog sniff the butt of this dog. I may be giving this dog some food, unless I already see a resource guarding issue going on with the other dog. I want this dog to be okay with getting its butt sniffed. And then I'm gonna flip them, and I'm gonna let them sniff each other's butts. And then if that goes well, I'm more likely to drop the leashes, because I'm a big believer that our leash corrections stop a lot of communication, but I'm not taking these leashes off, right? I still want to be able to move those dogs if I have to. So this is the part though where there's a lot of judgment calls. So the best thing I can tell you right now, don't take your dog to a dog park, go to the dog park. Go to the dog park where there's a lot of dogs and watch dogs interact and watch what happens after they do certain things. When do they seem to get stressed out? What does stressed out dog introduction look like? Dog parks are amazing places to understand canine behavior, but don't have your own dog there because you can't look at your dog and look at everybody else's dog. So I love to go, well, I don't love to because they're very stressful. But if I'm going to go to a dog park, I can get a lot of video of super stressed out dogs there. And then I can start to understand what stressed out dogs look like when they are meeting other dogs. So first thing we do is freak out when the dog lifts a slip or he growls a little bit. So again, this is communication, okay? This is not necessarily, I'm gonna cause a dog fight. I'm just telling the other dog, I didn't appreciate what you just did. Will you back away from me? That's what I wanna know. If one dog says something to the other dog, what does the other dog do? Two well-adjusted dogs, or semi-well-adjusted dogs, the other dog is gonna go, oh, my bad. Unless he's an adolescent, and then he's gonna go, what? You didn't mean that. I'm gonna jump on you again. But two well-adjusted dogs, what I'm gonna see is if this dog goes, don't do that, give me space, does the other dog go, oh, yep, sure, I'm gonna go sniff the yard over here. I'm gonna get back with you. And that's communication. But if I stop that, if I'm constantly saying, don't growl, don't show your teeth, get away from there, I may be stopping a very crucial set of communication. Also, you should know that canine aggression and play are the exact same thing. So, when dogs are playing and when they are fighting, it looks almost exactly the same. How many of you have two dogs that get up on their hind legs and grab each other by the neck and go, "Rrr," and their teeth are big and wide, and it sounds like you're running a dog fighting ring, and they body slam each other onto the floor, right? But you know it's like play. But what do dogs do when they fight? They stand up on their legs, they growl at each other, they grab each other's necks and throw each other down. So dogs read each other's intent. So play bow. I'm gonna do a play bow, and then I'm gonna take you to the ground. That play bow means I'm not fighting you. But if I just rush at you and take you to the ground, I'm not doing a play bow first. So what I'm looking at is what kind of communication is going on. Do I see one dog get loose and wiggly? Is he kind of being sideways to the other dog? Is he like going into little play bows? Does the other dog go, okay, I'm gonna go sniff the ground over here? So that's kind of like a displacement gesture. We're not gonna have a fight, but you are too much for me right now. I need to go over here. Dogs should not be friends necessarily. All dogs should really do in our homes is not fight and hurt each other, okay? We have this Disney-esque idea that dogs need to go to dog parks, dogs need to have doggy friends, that dogs live in packs. Lots of dogs would prefer to be the only dog. So my Chihuahua, really, if he could vote, the other two dogs are off the island. He's like, I don't know why they're here. And 4 years later, my youngest German Shepherd goes up to that Chihuahua every day and says, is today the day? And Harley goes, no. Falcon goes, okay. But every day Falcon goes, I'm sure today is the day we're going to be friends. I'm going to do a little play bow to you. And the Chihuahua goes, I will kill you. Falcon goes, okay, tomorrow. Let's try tomorrow. dog goes, "Did you just lift your lip to me?" Oh, I do not like that. That's when we get dog fights. And that's where we have to kind of, the more we know about body language and what's happening, pilot erection is when the dog's fur goes up. That's something they cannot control. That's an emotional response to stress. Don't think of it as aggression, okay? It's an emotional response to stress that they literally cannot control. So it just is information, okay? I like to walk, I'm gonna let the dogs be as free as they can be in this setting I have. Think about safety. There should be no toys in the meeting area, no resources, no food, and if I'm gonna have water, I'm gonna have at least 2 things of water far apart from each other. I'm not gonna, if I'm actually introing the 2 dogs, there's not gonna be food on me then. So I'm gonna get rid of the food before I bring the 2 dogs together, because that could cause a dog fight. Does your own pet dog resource guard you? Like, if the new dog comes up to you and your dog gets between you and the other dog, that's a problem. That's your dog going, "Oh, that's my mom." And if the foster dog goes, "Oh, okay, fine, you can keep your mom," that's okay. Then we have communication. But if the foster dog goes, "I really want a mom too, I want to come in here and get petted," then we may have an issue, okay? So if you're introing dogs in a home, which not everybody has a yard, okay? Intro them in a room with multiple exits, if at all possible. Move the furniture so no dog can get trapped in a corner. The worst thing that can happen when 2 dogs meet is for one dog to get trapped behind something. So if I see a dog about to get trapped, that's probably when I'm going to do my puppy voice and go, "Puppies, let's walk over here," and see if I can get the dogs out of a corner. Especially if I see one dog kind of pushing another dog into a corner of a fence or something like that, I'm going to try to get them out of that situation. The good thing is most dogs practice what's called ritualized aggression. This is why we see dog fights in the dog park all the time that rarely result in one dog being seriously injured. Because if these dogs were living in the wild, hunting is really important. If you are injured because of a dog fight, you're not going to be able to hunt and you're going to die. So dogs practice ritualized aggression, which is why it's all noise, thunder, and a lot of times nothing more than wet fur. Most bites in a dog fight happen to the human who is trying to break up the dog fight. Most of the time, the dogs don't hurt each other as much as the human who doesn't have fur. So have you ever noticed how much fur or how much skin pulls out when those dogs fight? That's good. That's what they're doing. They're not hitting an organ, okay? We don't have that. So we are more likely to be injured than the dogs are going to be injured. So again, there are exceptions to every rule. There are literally dogs out there who there's something broken, or they've been trained, or something bad has happened to them in their lives. They're not going to like any dog. Then there are dogs that we call dog selective. They may want to live with 2 or 3 other dogs in their lifetime, but they're not going to go bring home the entire shelter. And then we have dogs that are what I call social butterflies. They're like, "Yep, bring them over. Love my doggy friends. Love to play with them." So you also have to know what you're bringing your foster dog into. You have a dog selective dog. Sometimes dog selective dogs do better if you introduce opposite sexes to them. Generally, 2 females or 3 females are going to have more issues than 3 males or 2 males, especially if they are intact or have just recently gotten spayed. So kind of keep that in mind as well. But the big thing is to know your dog and to set it up so that the dogs can see each other through various things. So one thing with Cindy and Europe and the crate thing, know your dog. If the dog inside the crate is growling, then you don't want that. So just, I was sure that's not what you were doing, but I've seen so many people do this. So a crate, dogs are fight or flight animals, which is why I really like space, because generally, again, unless there's something, these dogs are just gonna hurt another dog no matter what. If there's enough space, dogs will work out they'll just work out their social structure in a given time. But fight or flight animal, if I'm on a leash, flight is not possible. If I'm in a crate, flight is not possible. So sometimes we have to make sure that the dog does not feel trapped by something. So I generally don't want dogs to be in crates when they meet. And that's the other thing too, sometimes I'll use fences, but some dogs are so barrier reactive that it's the fence. The best thing I've ever found is a tennis court. I love tennis courts that are dog friendly and that no one is playing tennis on, because most of them are fenced. So if I need to drop my leashes, I can. And I've had so much better luck with the dogs meeting through the net, because the net is, I don't know if the net just because it moves more, but I have really good luck in throwing dogs, and I walk on each side of the net. So we get to the end, we turn around, we walk back. If things are going well, I'm dropping the leashes, because again, I have hopefully a fenced tennis court. So anything like that, I think works really well. Delete this part out where I'm telling people to go hunt the tennis courts. Baseball tennis, stuff like that. Again, if it says no dogs, respect that. But I've used skate park, because dogs like to climb up on things. So I might have the dogs running all over the stuff in the skate park, and they can get up high on things, and then they can run around, and it gives them different ways to interact with each other versus just a static room where everything looks the same. So before lunch, the last thing I want to give you is empower you. What are you going to do if two dogs get into a fight, right? The first thing I'm going to give you is a podcast, Michael Shikashio. So Michael Shikashio, I always should look this up. It's either the bitey end of the dog or the bitey end of the leash. It's one of those two. But Michael Shikashio is a canine aggression specialist. His podcasts are amazing in terms of canine, how dogs interact with other dogs. It's sometimes people-dog aggression. You might not, all of his podcasts might not resonate with you, but he also teaches handling skills. Like I've done one of his leash handling seminars, his canine aggression and leash handling skills. His leash handling skills, if you ever get to see him, are really, they are really good skills to have. So, how do you break up a dog fight? So the good news is, although this is sad, two evenly matched fighting dogs take almost an hour to kill each other. So, what does that mean for you? If two dogs get in a fight, you do not have to rush in with your hand into the bitey end of the dog and try to immediately stop it. Now, I'm talking about two physically matched dogs. I'm not talking about a 75-pound dog and an elderly chihuahua, okay? Two evenly matched dogs are generally not going to fight to the death and kill each other in 3 seconds. You have time to be safe. When I'm introing two dogs, I'm gonna have stuff with me. I'm gonna have an air horn. I'm gonna have baby gates. If I can, I want a hose with water, or I want some buckets of water. I want a blanket, but mainly or I want a pig board. So you didn't grow up on a farm. A pig board is this thing that you use to move hogs. It has a handle, and it can stop a hog from moving into you. It can stop dogs from moving into you. Lots of shelters use pig boards now just because of that handle that they have. Do not intro dogs if you do not have a safety plan in place for what you're gonna do if there is a dog fight. Please, if at all possible, always have 2 people, 2 adults. Like, I don't want people introing dogs unless there is just no other way if there's only 1 adult. So I want 2 people, and then before the dog fight happens, I want you to think to yourself, what am I gonna do? I might try an air horn first, because it's the noise that the dogs are like gonna go, whoa, what was that? Pots and pans, yelling puppies, stuff like that. So I'm gonna try noise first and see if I can get the dogs to disengage. What happens though once the dogs disengage? You have got to get them away. That's why they are still dragging leashes. So many times I've seen people go, deer in headlights. We got the dogs apart and we're just standing here and the dog's like, okay, I'm still gonna have to kill you. So you want to immediately get one of those dogs behind a barrier. A barrier that you can close and get everybody de-escalated for a long time. So I'm gonna use water. I'm gonna throw the water in the dogs' faces. So if 2 dogs are actually fighting, real fighting, they can't probably hear you. So no amount of you yelling at them is probably gonna work. So if I have dogs that they can't hear me and it looks like it's escalating, I'm gonna try water. So I'm gonna throw water into their faces. Again, if they break apart, I have to be fast, okay? I don't have minutes. They're gonna break apart, and dogs are fast. People say all the time, he would have bitten me, but I moved. No, you didn't. The dog chose not to bite you. So when you do stop motion stuff and watch dog bites, dogs choose not to bite. So they are incredibly fast. You have to be fast. So if I break up the dogs, the first thing I'm gonna do is get them away from each other, and I'm pulling the leash. And depending on what's happening and how emotional the dogs are, my leash is like this, and this dog is way over here. So he's gonna be not able to bite me so much. So this is where we talk about leash handling skills. If I'm like this, and now this dog is like right here by my leg, I am in a world of hurt. So I always want to have the leash like this, because I can always stop the leash if I need to, and I'm going to strong arm the dog out. Pig boards, baby gates. Put them down between the dogs, not your hand. So if you can put them down between the dogs, they're going to, again, be broken apart, and you're going to not have a physical barrier between them to get them apart. So those are dogs that aren't really fighting, like mean up fighting. These are dogs that, and this is the vast majority of dogs. These things are going to break up the vast majority of dog fights that you will ever probably encounter. But there's video, Michael Shakasio has some great videos. Here's a video of a person hitting a dog with a baseball bat, tasing it, and the dogs will not stop fighting. Like, there are people kicking these 2 dogs, they are tasing these 2 dogs, nothing. If they are fighting, nothing you do is going to stop that fight, okay? And then, you know what happened? They were street dogs. 5 minutes later, they both ran away. But they were fighting so bad, no one could break them up. Okay, so God forbid, what if this happens? Okay, so I would always recommend, if you foster a lot of dogs and you're worried at all, have a break stick. So you can buy break sticks. You do not have to go underground to the fighting pit. You can get them all from Amazon. A break stick looks like this. It's very thin. It's got a handle. And you're gonna put it right here, and you're gonna turn like that, and the dog has to open his mouth. That's probably that's very effective. It takes a lot of practice. Another thing is, and this is the one we used here when I was still working here, and we were doing a lot of dog play groups. So what happens when a dog grabs? and you try to pull the dog away, right? We get ripping. So this is a lot of dog bite, hurt injuries of other dogs. And also dogs are genetically pre-programmed. So think about this. So if I have a dog with a rabbit in my mouth and the rabbit is still struggling, I'm gonna keep gripping that dog. So when this thing is still, or rabbit, so when this thing is still wiggling, this dog is still re-gripping or making its grip harder. It's almost gonna be impossible for me to tear that dog away. And if I do, I'm liable to be gouging huge rips in the other dog. So the best thing to do, because you have two people, one person gets behind this dog, this is the biting dog, one person gets behind this dog's head and pushes in, and someone's on this side of this dog pushing so it can't move, you're pushing into the bite. You're gonna push into the bite. Because you're pushing hard, this dog is probably gonna open his mouth, because we're pushing, not pulling, you're gonna get the two dogs away. You have to be calm enough that you can talk to the other person. So this was a while ago when IACS had a couple of different people in dog play groups. They talk a lot about breaking up dog fights. It actually worked. We were successfully able to break up several dog fights, but both of the people in the yard had gone to this seminar, and we just looked at each other in the face, and we talked, and I'm like, I'm holding this dog, you're pushing that dog. As soon as they break apart, I'm walking this way, you're walking that way. So this is hard, okay? Because most of us are like, ah! Oh my God, what am I gonna do? We rush in there, we put our hands in there, and the dog bites us. So I'm not saying it's easy, which is why I always want people to think about this. It's not happy to think about a dog fight, but what we want to do is make sure we understand what we're going to do and where are our resources. Pepper spray is going to blow back on you, and you are not going to be happy with that. Citronella I might use, especially if the bite's not very big. I might try spritzing some citronella into the dog's faces, but have tools. Have at least a noisemaker. Have a baby gate at least. And we talked a little bit about dog intros. What if you have a cat, snakes, reptiles, bunnies? So all of those kind of things also require careful introduction. And this is again where we kind of do a disservice to the dog, because we kind of go, okay, the cat is my family member, and so we obviously know we should not hurt family members. Mm-hmm. But the dog does not live in this Disney-esque world of understanding that the cat is family. I just worked with a client whose dog had killed their 2 bearded dragons, and these were 2-foot bearded dragons. Both reptiles were killed when no one was home. So management is going to work out, but what I couldn't go into that family and do is say, the dog will love the bearded dragons, and that you will be able to allow the bearded dragon to just walk around. And unfortunately, that's what they wanted. And I get so many people, especially this time of year, calling me to tell me that their dog has killed the baby bunnies in the yard, or found a nest of baby bunnies, or that you own a rabbit. And like, I had a client say she came home, the pet bunny was dead, she wanted to get rid of the dog because the dog should know that she actually, because the rabbit was a family member, okay? And it's horrific. Your beloved pet injured or killed another beloved pet. But this is when we sometimes have to understand that dogs are dogs. And yes, the internet is full of pictures of dogs with baby chicks on their noses and curling up with a baby bunny rabbit. But we don't know what's going on also in some of those pictures. And there are dogs that are like great with other creatures, right? But if your dog is not that dog, or the dog that you're fostering is not that dog, it's not that it's sometimes very difficult to change behavior. So there is, however, a difference between a dog that goes, I see a kitty cat and I'm going to go kill that kitty cat just because I see it, versus a dog that goes, if I poke it, will it run? And if it runs, is it fun? And if it runs and it's fun, if I pounce it, what will happen? And the cat accidentally is injured. So there's a lot we can do with the second scenario. So the first thing is management. Like, I am a huge believer in management. And to me, management means that the dog can't get to whatever the other pet is. But management is almost always going to fail, so you do have to know that. So cats are height seeking. Cats love to go up. In my house with my 4 cats and my 3 dogs, I have 4 floor-to-ceiling cat trees. I have a cat tree in every room my cats can be in, and I have a baby gate that has a pet door. So because it's not the dog necessarily that we also have to work with. We have to work with a cat, because if the cat's the cat that goes, I'm gonna walk up to you, I'm gonna get really big, I'm gonna hiss, I'm gonna swat you, and then I'm gonna run from you, that's partly the cat, okay? We're not just talking the dog. So I want cats in the home to know, dogs are part of our life. Why don't you stay up here on this cat tree and eat some tuna? So when the dog is in the room, you stay up on the cat tree, you eat some tuna. I love the walkways that you can put at the top of your wall, so cats can always go someplace where the dog can't get them. But this is really when I want to use a muzzle, is if I am not sure how the foster dog is going to do with the resident whatever. I want that dog muzzled, at least in the beginning, and under strict supervision. And I always generally suggest having the dogs not loose when no one is home, unless this is a dog you totally trust with whatever. But again, we can't tell the dog, that fluffy bunny rabbit is our beloved pet, Fluffy, and have the dog go, okay, I get the difference between this bunny rabbit and the outdoor bunny rabbits and stuff like that. So again, while there are dogs out there who are just amazing, it's not fair to any dog to label it something bad if it is not able to live with small pocket pets. So whatever you have, just make sure that the dog coming into the home, that you've set up the other animals in the home for success, that they have places that they can get away, especially going up if they're cats, or that they have safe rooms. So if cats don't run, the vast majority of dogs that we see are fairly okay. It's the running that is the issue. So that's why I try to make places so my cats don't have to run, and then my dogs don't go, oh, well, that's fun, let's chase it. So in all my years of fostering, I only had 1 dog that was really dangerous to the cats, and management failed me twice, and I'm just lucky the cat never died. But both times I was home, and I was able to retrieve the cat from the dog's mouth. But this dog meant business. This was not, oh, I made it run. This was bad, okay? So just keep that in mind. If you're bringing new dogs into the house that we don't have a history of, and even if you do have a history, you know what? Everybody knows, well, a lot of people know that if you're dropping a dog off, you want it to sound really good. So a lot of people will go, yeah, great with kids, great with other cats, great with dogs, and really, we don't know that that's true. So even if the dog comes with a list of things that it is great at, just use caution especially with small pocket pets. It's just, because again, 2 dogs are evenly matched and they have a language that they speak. So cats, dogs, cats, bunnies, cats, bearded dragons, not all of them are gonna be on the same page. But if I have a dog that's like just wanting to make the cat run, I might be able to train that dog. I'll usually just train a recall. I'll say, see Fluffy running? Fluffy running means you come to me. That takes training, takes the long line, takes the cat participating, and keeping the cat safe between training exercises. So I just wanted to touch on that a little bit. So let's go into separation anxiety, because that's a big one. And this is often where we want that 3-week rule before we make huge decisions. Lots of dogs are going to have separation. Lots of dogs are going to be stressed in those first few days that you have them. They may whine and cry in a crate. They may be destructive when you leave them home alone. So let's talk first about differences in what we're talking about.
Before we do that, can I ask something real quick?
Absolutely.
So, when you bring in a shelter dog home for the first time and you have other animals in the home, what's your suggestion on intros? Should you wait 24 hours? Should you wait a couple of days?
So that kind of depends on the pets you have in the home and what your experience level is. The less experience you have, I would wait 24 hours for sure. The more experience you have at reading canine body language and understanding the way your own pets interact with new animals coming into the home, then I'm more like gonna play it by ear. Because frankly, the vast majority of dogs do really, really well beating each other. But I am gonna wait, and like especially if for people who don't have as much experience, then I would wait and let the dogs do more side-by-side walking, let them get used to each other more, and stuff like that. So again, it's an experience thing. The less experience you have, the more safety nets I want you to have in place. So just so that things go well. Does that help?
Yeah.
So true separation anxiety can only be diagnosed by your veterinarian. Okay, we throw that word around. Generally, true separation anxiety, the dog is injuring itself in the crate. It's ripping its teeth out, it's ripping toenails out, it pees and poops in the crate, spins in it the whole time you're gone. You come home, there's blood everywhere, or it looks like the dog spilled water because it drooled so much. Dog goes through a window, separation anxiety. Dog eats through your drywall. So I just saw a video of a dog that was only left alone 15 minutes, and it ate through a wall. Like actually ate through the entire wall. So that's separation anxiety. That is something you need a veterinarian for. This is a serious mental illness. This is not something that we can just go, have a cookie when you're in your crate and try not to freak out, Fluffy, okay? This is probably gonna take possibly medication, but it's gonna take somebody who knows what they're doing. If you work a lot with separation anxiety dogs, you wanna look up Marlena De Martini. Her last name is DeMartini. So she has done a lot of groundbreaking work on separation anxiety, and she has online courses that you can take. However, her protocol is if you have a dog with separation anxiety, you can never leave that dog alone ever until the dog has changed behavior. So it's a great protocol. She has a lot of success, but she recommends that you get pet sitters, that you always have someone with the dog, that the dog can never be left alone. But she has other really good ideas as well. But I just want to make the difference between if you have a dog that is injuring itself, this is not for you to problem solve. We need medical help for that dog to see what we can do. But let's say that we don't have that. I really like cameras on dogs because I really want to know, of course the dog is probably going to whine when you leave, but is it still whining half an hour later, or is it asleep? So, and of course it's probably going to whine when you come home, because it hears you, right? So it's not while you're leaving and while you're coming home that we're interested in. What is the dog doing while you're gone, when he's in his crate or when he is loose in a house? If the dog whines for 5 minutes and then he lays down and takes a nap, I'm okay with that. If he's scratching, kind of pawing at the crate, maybe moving his crate pan a little, but after a while he settles down and takes a nap, I'm happy with that. If he hears someone walks by, he gets up and barks in his crate, but then he settles back down again, I'm not freaking out about that. How do we set the dog up for better success of going in the crate? So first, training the dog to go in voluntarily, having the dog, like we talked about before, having the dog go in on cue, those are helpful. Find things that are safe to give the dog while he is in the crate. So one of the things I really like is using the dog's dog food so he doesn't get fat. So I might use Kongs. So I might take a Kong and I might put the dog's kibble in a bowl with a tiny bit of water and a little bit of peanut butter. I'm gonna mix that up. I'm gonna stuff a bunch of Kongs, the big Kongs, so they do not want that dog getting his mouth stuck in the Kong. And then I'm gonna freeze it, and I might leave 2 or 3 of those Kongs in there. Now, if you come home and the dog has not eaten the food but eats it as soon as you get home, we're probably looking at some more higher up separation, anxiety kind of thing. But if a dog, licking and chewing are calming behaviors. Playing with toys, not calming behaviors. Don't leave toys in the dog's crate. I mean, some dogs like to have a wubby or something. Like my dog just sits in his crate, goes squeak, 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 but perfectly happy. And they're squeaking his little ball. But otherwise I don't want the dog just throwing toys around and getting itself riled up. If we can get the dog to lick or chew, those can be calming events for the dog. But you just have to make sure that you're putting something in the crate that the dog cannot injure itself on. So always know what's safe or not safe with the individual dog that you have. Lick mats. If you have a dog that's not going to chew things, if you don't know what a lick mat is, look at lick mats, because they're like this and they're rubbery and they have spikies on them, and you put the peanut butter really thin and you freeze it, and because of the little spikies or the ridges, the dog can't just lick the peanut butter off like he can lick the peanut butter off a plate, and they will hang on the sides. So again, these are not appropriate for dogs that are going to be destructive, but they are great. Other things that I've had clients do, especially for dogs that we can't leave something in the crate that is man-made, make giant meatballs. Not spicy meatballs, but regular meatballs, but big, and freeze them so that the dog's gonna go, there's a giant piece of food, a big thing of meat in my crate, but if he swallows it, it's digestible, and it tends to be very high value. I'm gonna look, if I have a dog that's not doing a very good job of wanting to eat while it's in the crate or is stressed, I'm gonna go big guns. I'm gonna get tripe. I'm gonna hold my nose, I'm gonna open a can of tripe, and I'm gonna put it either on a lick mat, I'm gonna put it in the crate, I'm gonna put it in a bowl, or I'm gonna freeze it in a Kong. Canned dog food that is 99% meat, especially if you can get a protein that is novel to the dog, like rabbit, kangaroo, something that the dog doesn't normally get, those are gonna be good things. Now, I'm not gonna probably do this forever, but I'm just trying to get the dog to go, wow, this crate comes with meatballs. I really want to be in this crate. So, Adaptil, there are some studies that show that Adaptil can be effective. Adaptil is a pheromone that mimics the pheromone that leather dogs give out to their puppies. It comes in a spray form. For crating, I generally use the spray. There's a plug-in, but unless you have a very, very tiny room, we want the adapter to go into the dog's nose. We don't want it to go up to the ceiling. So I'm gonna spray the crate pan or the dog's bedding really heavily 15 to 20 minutes before I go. There's also some good studies out that show that slow beat classical music or white noise will make a difference. And actually, for those who are interested, brown noise for dogs is better than white noise. And I can't tell you why, but I saw it at a seminar. And noise turns out to come in a bunch of colors. There's pink, there's brown, there's white. I downloaded an app that plays brown noise. So I'm like, oh, whatever, I'm gonna try it. So set the dog up for success. Put your crate in a room where your dog is not looking out at the mailman going by. Make the room a little bit dark. Make sure the dog already has good experience going into that room and into the crate if you're leaving him in a crate. Make sure he has something to do in that crate, and if you can, put some kind of camera on him for a bow, things like that, where you can just watch what the dog is doing throughout the day. Again, what we're most worried about or most interested in is what's the first half hour like. If the dog, like again, if he's like whining and maybe turning around in his crate a few times, but then he like finally goes, okay, I'm gonna go to sleep here, I'm gonna play with whatever is left in my crate, I'm not gonna worry about it. But we wanna just make sure that we set the dog up for success by not having a lot of stimulus. So some people will leave the TV on, and that's okay, but sometimes, depending on what you leave on, what if somebody rings the doorbell on the TV, or there's dogs barking on the TV? So I prefer to just do the white noise, the brown noise, or the classical music, just because it's probably a safer bet for the dog. But I want to just make sure that the dog is happy in its environment. The other thing I really like to train is I want dogs to be happy in their crates when I'm home. Lots of dogs can be okay in the crate when you're gone, but especially if you have an adolescent dog, or especially if you're fostering and you need to separate your dogs for a while, what you don't want is a dog that freaks out when you're home in the crate. So I spent most of my time with my own personal dogs training them that sometimes you're gonna go into I have a bedroom that they go to, they don't go in a crate anymore. I just train them to go into this room. So, but they know that if they go in there, it's a good place, you're gonna get something really tasty to do in there. And it just means that I'm not gonna be with you. I want my dogs to understand that I do not have to be with you 24/7 for you to have a good experience. So I try to get the dogs to not be Velcro dogs. So let's say you have that Velcro, especially a dog that's just coming out of the shelter, and it will not stop ungluing itself, or this is just Velcro to you 24/7. So what I might do is like go, okay, here's your tasty Kong filled with your food, or tripe, or whatever. I'm going to do the laundry, or I'm going to cook dinner. I'm going to put you in this room. Here's your tasty Kong. I'm gonna walk into this room. Can you be okay if I leave you with a puzzle and I only walk in to the next room? So I want the dog to start to go, okay, it's no big deal. The person went into another room, but they left me. They left me something to do. So that's fun. So it's the big thing is finding that fun. Depending on your situation, like we're going to pretend that resource guarding is not an issue. I do a lot of scatter feeding, meaning that I'm going to go into another room and I'm going to throw a whole bunch of kibble on the floor of the room I'm leaving, because dogs love to hunt. So it's a natural experience. They're like, okay, let's go do that. So again, I'm doing anything in my power to tell the dog that it is okay that I don't have to be in your sight 24/7, you have something else to do. But again, this is one of the things I generally don't worry that much about in the first week, unless it just seems like a major issue, because I'm gonna expect that dog to be more clingy in the first week. But if I can set the dog up and say, hey, do you like Kongs? Like, I'm a firm believer in never feeding dogs out of a food bowl. I have not fed a dog out of a food bowl for years. My dogs eat all their food out of something. Scatter feeding, they hunt for it in my backyard, and it takes my German Shepherd over an hour to hunt for all of his kibble in my backyard. He is like and he's exhausted when he comes in. So I do lots of feeding because, again, if we think about dogs, where did food bowls come from? They don't happen in the wild. Your dog is not out there going, oh, look, someone left me a bowl of kibble. Excellent, right? So this is, again, where we get trouble with boredom behaviors in dogs, because your dog's only job in life is to hunt for food. So if we take away the only job he has, he is now left going, couch cushion looks fun. I think I might destroy that today. Yep, nothing else to do, nothing to hunt. So giving dogs back a lot, when we talk about dogs need a job, people throw that word around. But I'm like, does it mean your dog goes to the bank and is a bank teller? What does that mean? So a job means your dog is doing something he is pre-programmed to do. Sniffing walks. So there's a really good study out right now that shows that dogs that get to go for a 15-minute enrichment walk, where all you do is put them on a long leash and let them sniff wherever they want to go, is equivalent to walking that dog for 1 mile with no sniffing. So your dog does not need exercise. Most of my clients are like, I walk my dog for 3 miles and he still destroys the couch. Well, excellent, you have made a really good athlete. So just like with us, the more you exercise your dog, the better athlete your dog becomes, and you are not making your dog tired, you're just making him a better athlete. So we want dogs to have enrichment and find ways, but I don't want them to be fat, which is why I try to use their kibble in as many different ways as possible so that they are not fat. So snuffle mats, Kong wobblers, the lick mats. I love cardboard enrichment. So imagine taking a cardboard paper towel tube, put some of your dog's kibble in the cardboard paper towel tube, twist the ends, give it to your dog under supervision. What we're looking for is, every once in a while I'm gonna find a dog that goes, I don't care. Most dogs are gonna go, wow, there's food in there, I wonder how I get it out. So the dog has to put his paw on it, keep it from rolling, he has to shred it. If he swallows cardboard, it's gonna be the best thing he's ever swallowed and all the things he's probably swallowing in his life. Cardboard is just paper, and unless he's eating an entire ginormous cardboard box, we're probably gonna be okay. Let's say he likes escape. I'm gonna take that cardboard paper towel tube and I'm gonna put it in a saltine box. And then I'm gonna put that saltine box inside a shoe box. And I'm gonna put it inside my chewy box. Each of those boxes is gonna contain 3 or 4 pieces of kibble, maybe a treat, maybe a toy. I'm gonna throw that box of boxes and I'm gonna let my dog have a Cracker Jack prize in every box that he destroys. So again, what is shredding? It is a normal canine behavior. I can't say to the dog, do not shred the couch. I can't say to the dog, shred the cardboard. Don't care about cardboard. And it's so when cardboard enrichment, it's just common sense. Please don't use a box that contains rat poison. Make sure that there's no plastic coating. A lot of cereal boxes now have an interior plastic coating. No staples. It just needs to be cardboard. So I love cardboard enrichment for dogs. So again, that might be something that you would feel safe giving your dog in a crate. So look at things like that. We're trying to get the dogs to go, okay, I don't need the human to be near me 24/7 in order for me to have fun. So I'm going to play with these boxes. Every time you leave the room, throw the dog something that he can do, that he can work with. But let's say, okay, this is not gonna work in your house because you have a resource guarding dog, or the foster dog you have is resource guarding. Resource guarding, unfortunately for us, is classified as a normal canine behavior. Dogs that don't resource guard are actually classified as abnormal. Why? Because this is how you lived in the wild. So if a dog is walking along and he finds a chicken and another dog comes along, the first dog is not going to go, oh, would you like to share my chicken? No, the first dog is going to go, I got a chicken, go find your own chicken. Because dogs don't understand, well, we don't think they understand forever. Like that, your dog doesn't know that there will always be dog food. Chewy comes every week. You are always going to have dog food for this dog. A lot of dogs are still really hardwired that resources are important to them. You can be a resource. Lots of times people go, oh, the dog is protecting me. He may be protecting you, but it may not be for the reasons you think. He's protecting you because you feed him and he's not sharing you because you bring him food. So dogs are most likely going to guard food. If they're going to guard something, it's almost always going to be food. Second is going to be the human or toys. Lower down on the list is usually bedding. Very few dogs seem to resource guard water, but I have seen a few that will resource guard water. The worst problem are what we call global resource guarders, and that's a dog that somebody drops something, and it could be anything. A dime, a Kleenex, something, and the dog goes, whatever that is, that's mine. Those dogs are very difficult to live with another dog. Or sometimes with people. Some dogs only resource guard from other dogs. Some dogs resource guard from humans and dogs, or some dogs only resource guard from humans. Your issue is probably going to be, well, because the dog can resource guard from you. First thing is, even if your own dog is not a resource guarder, dogs should always eat in separate rooms. Because, again, there's a lot of stress. Like, if a dog constantly is looking over at the other dog going, I wonder if you're done eating that yet. And the other dog says, oh, that dog is staring at me the whole time I'm eating, it's really stressful. Or a dog goes up and is constantly trying to push the other dog off the food bowl. I also don't like dogs that one dog is done eating and the other dog immediately rushes in and checks out the food bowl. So if I have resource guarding issues and I am using food bowls, I am picking up those food bowls as soon as the dogs are done eating. And especially if I'm bringing a new dog in the home, I'm probably picking up the food bowls. I'm going to separate the dogs, especially until I know how things are going. I don't want them seeing each other eating each other's food. And I will probably have at least 2 water bowls in separate parts of the house, just so that I'm setting everybody up. What am I going to do about toys? I'm probably going to start outside. I may start with one, let the dog, especially a new dog, a lot of times I'll let them drag a leash for a little while, because I just want to know how that's going to work. Big thing for us, there is nothing that shows that you should ever take food from a dog. Like, it doesn't prove anything. Don't go stick your hand in the dog's food bowl just so you can tell someone, hey, guess what, we can mess with his food while he's eating. Or like a client yesterday told me, every time I pet him while he's eating, he snaps at me. And I'm like, well, can you just not pet him while he's eating? And they're going, well, yeah. Okay. Let's do that. So, but somewhere in the whole dominance hierarchy thing, there's still these myths out there that people say all the time, okay, you have to make the dog sit and stare at you for 5 minutes, and then you put his food down, and then you tell him he can eat so that you can show him that this is your food. And the dog is probably just going, this is stupid. These are dumb rules. I don't like this game. So if it's human dog resource guarding, a lot of times what I'll do is I'll teach the dog that the human coming closer to his food bowl means good things. So I'll walk up to the dog, not so close that the dog is stressed. I'm going to throw something better into the food bowl, and I'm going to walk away from that dog. I'm going to walk up, dog perceives I'm there, I'm going to throw something into the dog's food bowl, I'm going to walk away. I'm not ever going to take the food bowl. I just don't want the dog to get stressed while I'm walking by the food bowl or while a child is walking by the food bowl. So I want the dog to know that when people approach your food bowl, A, they're not taking it, and B, they throw hot dogs at you. And that is really good. Same thing if, like, so many of my clients go, he bites me when I try to take something out of his mouth. Okay, like, does he have a piece of like he got something off the table and I don't want him to have it. All right, so can you trade him? If the dog got a piece of food, the dog won. Just don't try to get it back. But if the dog has something dangerous, I'm always gonna try training for it. So one thing that can happen is dogs are smart and they learn that if we're gonna chase them and take the thing out of their mouth, they should swallow it. So I see a lot of dogs swallow socks, toys, things that really cost a lot of money to retrieve, steak knives, because they learn that the human is going to chase them, the human is going to take the thing out of their mouth, and they're not going to get it. So some dogs are going to go, saw that, I'm going to swallow it. So people go, well, I don't want to reward my dog for taking something. And that is a concern, but giving your dog a piece of kibble or a treat is far better than your dog swallowing something he shouldn't have. It's far better than getting into conflict, and it teaches most dogs, hey, I have something in my mouth. If I bring it to you, will you pay me for it? Which, one day my dog brought me a piece of glass. I was very happy that he dropped the piece of glass out of his mouth and into my hand. But I had taught him that if you brought me things, and my cue is thank you, I pull out my hand and I would go thank you, and he would drop it in my hand, and because I paid him a lot to do that for me. So again, I'm not chasing him, I'm trying to get the dog to bring things back to me. So with resource guarding human to dog, we want to teach the dog that sometimes we got to take the stuff you have because it's a steak knife and you shouldn't play with it. But I'm going to trade you something really, really good, and I'm not going to chase you throughout the house for it. I'm going to give you good things in your food bowl when I walk by. I'm not going to try to take it. Now, dog resource guarding, that's going to be more problematic. If the dogs are speaking to each other, I'm going to let the dogs take care of it. So, examples. In my house, if there are raw bones and all the dogs get a raw bone, Falcon just is like, gets distracted easily, and and Skywalker takes his bone all the time. And then Falcon goes, oh, there's my bone, I'm gonna go get it. And Skywalker goes, no, I have 2 bones now, and you have none. And Falcon goes, oh, okay, I guess I lost. But they read each other. So Skywalker's over there growling, Falcon's poaching in the bones, Skywalker's like, stay away from the bones, Falcon walks away. I don't do anything because they're communicating. I'm gonna get up, take the bones, redistribute it to Falcon, and I'll probably shut Falcon in my bedroom at that point so that he can enjoy his bone without Skywalker. But I'm not gonna go yell at Skywalker for growling because he's doing the right thing, and Falcon's doing a good job of going, oh yeah, I was stupid. So, but if I have a dog, the problem is if you get a dog that goes, okay, this is my bone, and the other dog goes, I'm pretty sure it's my bone, then you have more of an issue. Then you may have to go, okay, bones are off the table. Like some dogs will only resource guard up to a certain point. Like, so then you go, okay, bully sticks. Bully sticks are a big one. Raw bones are a big one. So sometimes I'm gonna go, okay, with this certain dog, they're off the table. I'm a huge believer though that your dogs don't need to be with the other dogs in the household 24/7. Just like us, for those of us who are in committed relationships and things like that, every once in a while we need a break from the person who is sharing the house with us probably. So your dog probably also would like a break from the other dogs in the household. If you watch street dogs, they will go off on their own and go do their own thing a lot of times. So if I have resource guarding dogs, I'm gonna probably separate them. They're probably gonna be happier, and I'm gonna say, okay, here's everybody's raw bone for the day. You're gonna get your raw bone over here. You might get yours in the crate. You might get yours outside, but I'm gonna separate them if I have dogs that are going to guard. So my other dog is the one that keeps losing his bone. He will guard his tennis ball. So if it's his tennis ball in play, and the other dog comes near his tennis ball, he's going to be the one guarding the tennis ball. then the other dog goes, oh yeah, I don't really care about the tennis ball. So as long as the dogs work those out, I do not freak out if a dog growls at another dog, especially if it's a resource involved. I'm gonna make a decision, do I need to change how I give them their resources? Are they communicating effectively? And do I maybe need to help them out? But what you cannot do is assume that dogs share, and that just because you have 3 dogs and 3 bones, that your dogs are again gonna be Disney-esque and go, all right, we each have the same bone, so I don't care about that. So this is where we get into trouble with the dog by trying to force them not to be dogs. So sometimes with resource guarding, with dog resource guarding, I may do more separation. And they'll probably be happier because they don't have to constantly be going, is anybody looking at my bone right now? Like my one falcon, he is so happy when I put him in the bedroom because nobody's gonna bother him, he can get distracted, no one's gonna take his stuff, and an hour or 2 later, he comes back out into the house. So this is the other part. We go, oh, well, I don't want the dog, you know, if both dogs aren't in the room with me, then the dog I put in the bedroom, he's probably gonna feel like I don't love him so much anymore. So again, these are things where we get into emotional quagmires with the dog, that the dog probably isn't having that emotional quagmire. My search dogs, my 2 shepherds that I use in search and rescue, I take one dog, I take the other dog, they never both go with me all the time. And so far, even though the dog I leave behind always looks like, he looks at me like, I can't believe you're leaving me. When I come home, he doesn't look at me like, I hate you, you took my brother. No, he's like, oh my God, you came home. So we put those on dogs. They are not putting that problem on themselves. So that's resource guarding, a little bit about separation anxiety, canine communication. So I know people want to talk about shy and fearful dogs as well, but yes.
Sorry, back on the resource guarding, can you talk about dogs resource guarding human? Because I know some.
Oh, thank you. Yes. So a couple of things. Depends on how bad it is. If one of the things I'm going to do is, like, let's say I'm standing here and I'm petting a dog and the other dog comes in and cuts in and pushes this dog out of the way. I'm turning my back on both dogs and I'm walking away. I want the dog to know resource guarding me actually caused me to leave. You didn't get what you wanted, I actually left. Conversely, I'm going to call both dogs to me and I'm going to start to give them both attention as they approach me so that they realize, okay, this is how you can get attention. If one dog pushes the other dog away again, I'm going to get up and leave. I'm going to leave. I'm just going to turn my back on the dog. If I'm sitting on the couch, which is usually what happens, one dog gets in your lap and tries to push the other dog out, I'm going to get up and walk away from that. So I want the dog to realize that he's not resource guarding me, he's forcing me to leave. That's the exact opposite of what he wants. But what I need to also teach him is, how do you get me to stay? So the way you get me to stay is you both come up and you both get petted. So I have had dogs that, like, if there are 2 people in the house and they hug each other or they are doing something like kissing, that the dogs will try to push into that and things like that. Then I'm probably going to use treats and I'm going to say, okay, when we hug each other, go eat that treat over there. So we just change the emotional response the dog has to that. But resource guarding the human, I also usually give a little leeway to in the first few days a new dog is in the house, depending on, unless it looks like it's gonna cause a dog fight, then I'd probably do more about it. But sometimes I just ignore it, but a lot of times I'm just gonna walk away from it. I'm just gonna say, oh, you caused me to leave. When I say walk away, it can either be me standing up and turning my back and counting to 10, or me actually going into another room and shutting the door so the dog can't see me anymore. It depends on the dog and the situation. They basically want the dog to know that you pushing in between me and that other dog is not going to get you attention. Because again, if I start to say, hey, you know, we're all family here, push the other dog out of the way so this dog can get attention, we're just causing a lot of conflict in there. Does that help?
Yes.
Okay, good question.
So I have another question about the same thing. So what we hear a lot is, I'm sitting on the couch, I brought the foster dog home, they're being very cuddly, my dog approaches, and the foster dog snaps, or growls, or goes after the resident dog. Same thing? Just
So, I'm probably gonna get up and walk away from that for sure, but I wanna walk away from it if I can before the snap.
Okay.
So this is the problem, is that we tend again to only notice when the behavior is escalated, because that's just who we are, right? So if I can, in those first few days a dog is home, because I know that's a huge trigger button issue, I'm probably gonna watch really carefully if one dog is on the couch. If I'm not having luck, then I'm probably gonna keep those dogs separated for longer, let them be in the house longer before I let them practice that behavior again. But then if that's not working, I let him, I would prefer to get up and walk away from the couch, because I'm hoping that this dog gets up and follows me. If he does, I'm immediately gonna sit back down, but before he can jump back up on the couch, I'm gonna try to start scratching his neck here, and I'm gonna call my dog. And I'm gonna try to have my body between them, and I'm gonna basically say, okay, look, this is how you get attention, and then I might call my dog up onto the couch first, and again, I'm probably gonna use my body. My dog's gonna be over here, new dog is gonna be over here, this dog starts to go, I'm gonna creep over, then again, I'm gonna get up and walk away. Pretty soon the dog's gonna go, okay, this keeps you here, this drives you away. So, because dogs are good at reading patterns, we just need to get them to, and again, they will learn behaviors that pay them. So we need to make sure that we pay them for the behavior that we're looking for, which is to both be on the couch at the same time. Now sometimes if I have dogs that resource guard in bed, because I like to sleep, I might just say, okay, this is again where I go, I don't think dogs are gonna go, oh my God, you get to sleep in the bed, but I don't, Mom loves you better. I'm just gonna say, okay, somebody doesn't get to sleep in the bed because you're resource guarding the bed, and I don't wanna listen to dog fights in the middle of the night. So I do wanna open it up for questions, because you guys already know a lot of really good information, because you've been doing this for a while. So, and I've thrown a whole bunch of stuff at you. So, there are no stupid questions. And for anyone who is shy and doesn't want to ask a question, my website is on the front of your little notebooks. You can reach me. My email address is iclickdogs@gmail.com. Email is the best way to reach me. iclickdogs@gmail.com, but my website will lead you to my contact information. So if you do not want to ask a question, or you think of a question after you leave, that would be the best way to reach me. All right, questions?
So if you have a dog, right now there's a situation with a foster who the dog has very bad leash reactivity, and they live in a very populated city, like downtown Indianapolis, and it's hard to go on walks. How would you approach?
Okay, that's pretty common. So is he reactive only to other dogs, or is he reactive to people?
I think people as well.
I think a little bit of that.
Yeah.
Okay, so things approaching him make him, what does he do? Does his fur go up on the back of his neck? Okay. What's he walked on?
Harness.
Is it a no-bull harness or a back clip harness?
I think it's backwards.
Okay. I'm almost always going to put the dog in a no-bull harness. So either a balanced, freedom, or easy walk, so that I have that front clip, so I can easily turn the dog away. And I'm going to teach that dog that when you see another dog, hot dogs will literally rain from the sky. So I'm gonna do some classical conditioning first. So first we have to understand threshold. So threshold is this. I'm gonna talk to you about dog training. First, what's your name? Trisha. I'm gonna talk to you, Trisha, about dog training, okay? And now, this table just caught on fire, and these people are screaming. So Trisha, these people are screaming, and there's a big fire over there, but we're gonna talk about dog training, okay? So Trisha, pay attention to me. Are you paying attention to me right now? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? There's people on fire, but I want you to talk. I want to talk about dog training, okay? So that's threshold. Threshold, when you're over threshold, that means your emotional state, there's too much. There's too much information. There's too much outside stimuli. You can't make a decision. You cannot help a dog that's over threshold. So if the dog is lunging, barking, snarling, slobber coming out of his mouth, you call his name a couple of times and he can't look at you, you cannot help that dog. You have to put the dog under threshold, which means you have to increase the distance between you and the dog. So first I need my dog to be able to know that I exist. So if I can keep the dog far enough away from we call it the trigger. So I'm gonna say, okay, is it 50 feet? Is it 300 feet? 10 feet? Where is threshold? So threshold is, an easy way to know threshold is, can the dog eat? You have to make sure that you have something really good. I almost always will use meat for reactivity because I need to know that I have something that's gonna cut through the fog as much as possible. So first thing I'm gonna do is, if that dog is lunging and barking at the other dog, I'm gonna put a piece of chicken in front of his mouth, his nose. If he cannot eat that, look at the chicken, nothing. I got nothing. The only thing I can do is walk away from that, which is why I like the front clip harness, because I don't wanna drag him by the neck away, and I don't want him up on his hind legs. I want to gently guide him to the side. As soon as his brain comes back, and we almost all know what that looks like, suddenly the dog realizes that you're there, I'm gonna reward that heavily. I'm gonna throw some treats on the ground, let him hump for them. I want him to understand that calming down paid a lot of money. As soon as he calms down, I'm gonna turn around, look back at the thing, the scary thing, see if the dog can eat, but then I'm gonna immediately turn back around again from the scary thing. So it might look like this. If I'm a dog and that's a dog, and I'm right here and I'm bark, 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 you show me a cookie, I can eat the cookie, I'm gonna stand here. But I go this close to the dog, I can't eat the cookie, I'm done training. So I have to be under threshold. I'm gonna do straight up classical conditioning. Which means, look at the dog, every time you look at that dog, I'm gonna give you a treat. Every time you look at that dog, I'm gonna give you a treat. Every time you look at that dog, I'm gonna give you a treat. So that means I sometimes have to turn you away from the dog so that you can turn back to the dog, look at the dog to give a cookie. At some point, your dog is going to go into what's called operant conditioning, meaning he's gonna look at that dog and he's gonna look back at you and go, do I get a cookie for that? Training just happened. Now you have a behavior that you can reward. So now I can go on a walk and go, look at that. See that dog? If you look at that dog and look back at me, I'm gonna give you a cookie. So that after a while, we don't need the treats because we're actually changing the chemical response. We're making that dog, it's a fear-based behavior. So we're basically saying, instead of being terrified of that dog, good things are gonna happen to you. But the hard part for us is staying under threshold, especially in the world. It is far easier to work on dog reactivity outside of where you live. So I want to take the dog usually to a park where on a beautiful day like this, lots of people will be walking on the sidewalks of the park, but I have a huge grassy area where I can walk the dog. I love to send people here to the south parking lot because the shelter volunteers here walk the dogs to, there's trails in the woods, and that parking lot is huge. So you're constantly gonna see dogs, but be able to stay far enough away from them to teach the dog that seeing the dog is a rewarding opportunity versus a stressful opportunity. Here's where we get stuck, because again, it seems counterintuitive. People go, well, I don't want to reward the dog for barking at the other dog, right? Think about this. If you don't like clowns, and you're screaming at the clown, and every time you scream at the clown, I give you a $50 bill, I will never make you more afraid of that clown than you already are. I cannot reward a fear-based behavior and make that fear-based behavior worse. Giving you $50 bills while you scream at the clown may make you start to go, I get $50 for looking at the clown, and I'm more interested in the $50 than screaming. I can change your emotional state of seeing the clown. But if you're too afraid of the clown, it won't matter. You won't even care about the $50 bills. So it doesn't matter what your dog is doing when it is in a fear-based response. You can give that dog treats all you want. I do lots of scatter feeding because a lot of dogs will hunt even if they're super stressed. So like say my dog is, that's another dog, my dog is staring at that dog and it's barking, and I go, oh look, here's some cookies, and I throw the treats the other direction. So that I broke the line of eye contact, and I'm saying, let's go hunt for cookies this direction, and then we turn back around and look at the other dog. The problem is, if you're in a neighborhood where you can't control where you see the other dogs, how close those other dogs get to you, then your dog is constantly in a heightened state of stress going on a walk. So we don't want dogs that are super dog reactive to go on walks. So because the more you take that dog on a walk where you cannot control everything, that dog is going to be constantly thrown into a state of stress. So I want to work on the behavior, but I want to work on it someplace where I can control it as much as possible. So I use my stuffed dog all the time for dog reactive clients. But I also suggest finding a friend with a very neutral dog that won't bark back, but where you can control the environment, where you can say, okay, at 50 feet, my dog can eat treats. I need a dog that will stay 50 feet away, and let me see if I can get to 40 feet. But again, this is where human nature comes in, and we go, well, I'm down to 40 feet, let me see if I can get to 10. So reactivity is molasses. It is slow. It is, you want to take very, very baby steps so that the dog will always, as much as possible, this is bad, walk away. You just put a car between you, go up into someone's driveway, do anything you can to get that dog out of the situation. I don't recommend making the dog sit. I'm not going to make it do a bunch of obedience. This is a fear-based behavior. I don't want that dog to go, oh my gosh, I can't move. I want that dog to go, that dog literally means something good will happen to me, and if it's too stressful, my owner will get me out of that situation. So again, this is what happens. We're going for a walk, this dog is going bark, 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 bark. What that dog is saying is, go away. Go away. But what happens on a walk? You're getting closer and closer. So this poor dog is going, well, I said, like how clear, I said it as clearly as I could say it, that I need you to go away. So then this poor dog starts to go, okay, what if I lunge and bark at it? What if I start scanning the neighborhood the minute I walk out the door? So we can't tell this dog, this is life. So we have to go, okay, can we teach you instead that if you ignore this dog, as long as he's far enough away and you're not getting too stressed out about him, can we ignore him and teach you a new behavior? So one of the big things that will help you, the big way I think of this is, your dog is doing a behavior you don't want. What should your dog have been doing instead? And did you ever train your dog to do that? So dog barking at another dog, what is an alternative behavior? Look at me. If the dog can look at me, he can't bark at the other dog. So I just trained him a behavior that is incompatible with barking at another dog. So instead of going, I don't want my dog to bark at other dogs, which you can't train, you're saying, I'm going to train my dog to look at me, which is incompatible with barking at another dog. But it's the threshold part that sticks us up, because the dog cannot learn a new behavior if there's too much information coming in. So reactivity, or whatever we want to label this behavior, is a huge, big moving puzzle. So I usually teach dogs that we're going to walk out on the porch, and we're going to hunt for treats, and we're going to go back in the house. We're going to walk out on the porch, we're going to hunt for treats, we're going to go back out of the house. I generally don't take the dog past a mailbox or the next driveway until the dog can successfully go out the house without totally scanning the neighborhood and being hyper alert, and then work on that. Or I would prefer to take the dog off property where I can safely retrain a behavior so he's not stressed. The other thing about reactivity, it does not tell us if the dog is dogged aggressive. One of my first German Shepherds, if you saw him on leash, you would be terrified of letting him near your other dogs. But off leash, he was great with every dog he ever met. On leash, no good. Barked and lunged at them. Did that help? Yeah. Okay, yes.
On that point of leash reactivity, if we have a leash reactive dog, how would you handle like dog intros in that case then?
So that's why I don't like leashes to intro dogs, but then we have to go, okay, where's our safety? Which is why I like to go back to the muzzles, but I would not intro dogs that are leash. So I just knew my dog would be fine off leash, but I knew this dog, I just knew I could never introduce him to another dog on leash. Off leash, he was fine. If I don't know that, that's where my problem is. That's where I'm probably going to go with muzzles. But I always want to try to change that reactivity, because even for dogs that are not reactive, or dogs that are reactive on leash but fine off leash, that behavior is stress and it can become worse over time. So if I can change it, that's why I like, if I'm going to do parallel walking, I'm always going to have the treats with me, because I want to try to train the dogs that when you see that other dog, when things happen to you.
And that same like thought process could be like anything, like, you know, many dogs are like, I guess, you know, scared of nail clippings or touching their feet. You can do the same thing. Hey, you go, where is there, you know, how scared are they? You grab the foot, and then you give them the treat. And just
Right.
Like,
So
one
that's
of our dogs is that, like,
Yeah.
if you touch his feet, he's like, nope, run away, and it's like,
Peace out.
Yeah.
So this is my dog's foot. I'm going to touch the foot. What if I can't touch the foot? Because he moves his foot as soon as I touch it. Can I touch his side? I'm going to find that place I can touch and he doesn't move. I'm going to touch it. Here's a cookie. Touch it. Here's a cookie. He does not get the cookie and then I touch it. That's poisoning. You have to touch it and then give the reward. So then I'm going to move down. Can I touch your paw? Here's a cookie. Can I touch your paw? Here's a cookie. Can I put a little pressure on your paw? Here's a cookie. If he jerks his foot back, I go back. So this is the part again where human nature gets in the way, because we're like, that dog's toenails are long. God, I'm gonna clip that dog's toenails. So then the next time you go to clip the dog's toenails, we've already made a bad experience. For toenail clipping, look at scratch boards. Teach your dog to clip his own toenails. They're just sandpaper like every board. Teach the dog to scratch on it. The dew claws are a little iffy, but even those can sometimes go down. But for dogs that do not want their feet messed with, scratch boards are amazing. And most dogs can be taught to dig, because it's a normal behavior.
So with a lot of the behavior issues and stuff, that it just no matter from aggressive dogs to whatever, we just need to find that spot where they're slightly uncomfortable, but not over the edge, reward
Right.
that behavior,
Absolutely.
and then inch your way in, our goal is just to inch your way forward.
Right.
And,
At the dog's pace.
and it could be, you know, like what you, and that's what, I guess you're trying to retrain us a little bit too, because
Right.
we wanna, hey, I'm gonna clip, hey, I got halfway down your leg, I'm clipping your nails. No,
Right.
hey, halfway down the leg's a good thing. Hey, even if that takes 3 weeks to get to, get us to do it, hey, it's gonna
Right.
be slow.
Absolutely. So this is why I work with so many veterinary offices as well. Because how many people have a dog that doesn't like to go to the vet? So then your dog gets really roughly manhandled at the vet because now they can't handle him at the vet. And then he has a bad experience, and then the next time he goes, he has an even worse experience, and then your dog can't go back to the vet because they don't want to handle him. So if everybody can learn fear-free, so there's a lot of good information out there, and you guys can all get fear-free certifications for like dog walking and stuff like that. Look up the like fear-free certifications. So basically just working with dogs, and instead of scaring them, we're going, okay, can you do this? Like, can the vet give you a shot if you're eating peanut butter from your owner? While the vet, I'm not gonna go, okay, now do 25 other shots as well, and look in his mouth. So if it's a cracked tooth, we're looking in the mouth first, and we're done, and we're not doing anything else. So we can always set our dogs up for better success, but we have to think about how the dog perceives the world around him. So again, the veterinary is a good example. If you have a sense of smell that is that acute, what do you think the vets are like going, I don't want to go in there if the last dog died. So we want to think about things like that, where that we set the dog up as much as humanly possible, knowing that we're never going to be able to be perfect, but doing the best we can to teach that dog. So I teach a lot of husbandry skills. So meaning that you can teach a dog to love having shots. You can teach a dog to enjoy having its ears looked at. You can teach a dog to open its mouth for a dental exam. Zoos do this all the time. And all you have to do is go to the dolphin show. They teach the dolphin, and they're not using a shock collar on the dolphin. They're not using a prong collar. They're not hitting the dolphin. They're using a fish. So we're training the dolphin, voluntarily open your mouth. Voluntarily give me a fluke so I can do a blood draw. We can easily train dogs to do the same thing. Voluntary cooperation. But it takes training. I mean, it takes time, and many of our dogs have already had poor experiences. Other questions? Tish, you said you had lots.
I did. We've actually answered a few of them. So back to introducing dogs and kind of letting them communicate. So it's okay for one dog to basically offer correction to another dog.
Right, so it is. We want to know, does the other dog accept the correction? Because again, don't think of it as a correction.
Okay.
Think of it as communication.
Okay.
So maybe this dog doesn't want his butt sniffed. So if he doesn't want his butt sniffed, he should get to tell the other dog, don't sniff my butt.
Yeah, and so we've had that exact situation with the foster. She took the foster home. They did a good job of, like, they introduced them kind of neutrally. She had another adult. Then they were in the house. The foster dog came over to get a toy or investigate a toy that was on the couch. And then the resident dog approached him from behind and sniffed his bottom, and he turned around and snapped at the resident dog. Well, then it became, he doesn't get along with my dog, he can't stay here, he has to leave, we're afraid. When in reality, that was probably just communication.
Yeah, or it could have been the toy.
Right, it could have also been the resource.
And it could have been the couch. So what I look at is not did the dog snap? Was there a dog fight? And if there was a dog fight, was medical attention required? If the answer to both is no, I'm probably going to be okay. We want to watch this. We need to be more hyper aware of it. But I want to know, were they communicating? So I said my dogs growl and snap at each other. And they just do. Like, one of my dogs will body slam the other one sometimes, and one of them is, I have to tell you that my Chihuahua, his constant state is, You just look at him, the other dog is just gonna go like, I hate you. So I could probably work on their behavior. I could make it better. I choose not to because I can manage it just fine. I always want people to know that you can always change behavior. How much time and resources do you have to change the behavior? How much can you manage? How much are you willing to live with? Because that's the big thing. We all have different levels of tolerance of behavior that we will or will not tolerate. So that's what I always want to know first. What will you tolerate? And for a person who can't tolerate one dog growling back at another one, we may have to go, okay, maybe this isn't your gig. So, and so that's kind of how I look at it. But, and again, I get the fact that no one wants their dog to growl, because to us, growling is scary. And let me tell you, when dogs, even dogs playing is scary. I mean, I have tons of pictures of dogs with their teeth all open like this, but, and out of context they look bad, but they were all taken in play. So, yeah, but the big thing is, I don't want dogs to get in trouble for communication. So what happens a lot of times is a dog growls at the dog, and then we get mad at the dog that growled. And so basically what we're saying is, this dog got you in trouble. You just tried to talk to him, and now I'm gonna yell at you for talking to him inappropriately. So I could make this behavior worse by having the dog go, okay, every time I get near this dog and want to talk to him, I get in trouble for that.
Because I feel like if we brought a dog home and we tell this brings up another point. So we usually advise our fosters to have them drag leashes. But even in the house.
Yep.
Okay, so in the house it's more like a 6-foot leash.
Yeah.
instead of like a-
Right.
Okay, and, so I feel like if that were to happen in the home, the natural inclination is to immediately grab the leashes and separate it.
Right.
Is that potentially making it worse?
It can be.
Than just letting them work it out and just kind of like see where it goes?
So instead of grabbing the leashes, I might do more of trying to separate them with my voice, being real excited. And I might try to see if I walk out of the room, will one of them follow me? And maybe I give them a 20-minute break from each other. But again, the problem with this is there is a very thin line between when you need to step in and when you don't. And I don't ever want people to not step in and then have something horrible happen. But I also want people to understand that sometimes we're the thing that flips the trigger into an already stressed out dog to go, I'm done. I'm too stressed out. Now the only thing I have to do is use my teeth.
So even if we were to say intervene at that point, when maybe it wasn't necessary, as long as we separate everyone.
And be
let
as happy as
everyone-
possible.
Okay, let everyone kind of come back to neutral.
Right.
Give
I just want to try to make sure that if I separate the dogs, they don't think they're in trouble. Like I'm not going to take the dog and go drag it out of the room, being like, I can't believe you just growled at my dog, you really bad dog, because we do that.
Yes.
And it's not that we're bad people, it's just that we do that. So one of the things I had to teach myself to do was, I raised 3 puppies from puppyhood to adolescence, like over 4 years. That's a lot of adolescence. So I would sometimes go, just want to relax. So my adolescent dog would be being an adolescent dog. So I would go, no, fuck in your own mind. I get that I'm human and I'm going to react that way sometimes. But I don't want the dog to go, okay, now I don't trust you as much as I thought I did.
And so that was another question that I had, was the adolescence. So a lot of people that are new to kind of fostering that kind of thing don't understand what that means as far as when a dog is in adolescence and when it ends and that kind of thing. And I feel like we are at the shelter are seeing a lot of those 2-year-old dogs that had no
so this kind of, so several, there are many questions in Charlie. So if I'm trying to get the dog to learn better dog-dog skills, I'm gonna go with muzzles and having the dog be with a group of well-adjusted dogs. So that's basically how they do a lot of rehabilitating fighting dogs and things like that. It's just because we don't want the well-adjusted dogs to have to worry about it, to have to worry about getting hurt.
I have a question on that. Wait, sorry. So, my dogs, I would think pretty well adjusted. I got her training. The trainers told me to just be careful who I let her around so they don't overtrain her, like make her less well adjusted. Is that how, if you're doing that, like that situation, then you want a dog?
So
If my foster dogs mess up my dog, I mess this way.
absolutely.
And how do I stop that from happening?
So just like with us, if you bring in a foster dog and your foster dog attacks your dog, and before that your dog was always dog friendly, absolutely you could ruin your dog forever. Some dogs can get attacked and they aren't. So it's called a one-time learning event. Some dogs have what's called one, and you may not ever know, right? So that's why I stopped fostering for a long time, because my dog was starting to exhibit a lot more stress behaviors. He used to be, like, for a long time, we also inadvertently were creating a problem. We were always using the same dog-friendly dog here to do dog intros, and that dog became very dog phobic. So, again, she started out super friendly, but it's just like, it's too much at some point. Dogs are not big social pack animals, so when they constantly are getting introduced to new dogs all the time, I always think of it like you're going to a state dinner and you don't, like, you're from the country, you're a country mouse, and suddenly you're invited to the White House and you don't know what fork to use. And you're constantly having to look and see what fork everyone else is using. So dogs are very much driven by watching body language, and the more they have to watch more dogs' body language, it's exhausting after a while. So some people use that to say, like, okay, my dog never barked out the window until this dog came and he barked out the window. Maybe, but probably the dog was gonna bark out the window anyway. But what I'm more worried about is if the resident dog gets beat up. So I'm more looking at, is the resident dog gonna get beat up? Is the resident dog exhibiting? That's why I always want people to understand canine stress behaviors. And for anyone who wants it, I have a two-page handout on the different stress behaviors that I can email you. Just because I only went over a few of them, and so that you don't have to remember them. But it's really, really important to understand what minor stress behaviors are and what severe stress behaviors are.
And that's like one of the cases that we had with our foster dog issue years ago, was that the foster dog was kind of putting out some, hey, leave me alone. Our dog was like, eh. And then they did, they had a few little arguments, nothing major, no, didn't require anything. It lasted 5-10 seconds, it was done. And then, hey, we attacked each other. Our dog now, if we foster something, we don't introduce he's in the other side of the house, because on top of that negative behavior, we used to go to the dog park all the time. This guy could care less that any other dog is there. He just wants his ball. Just throw the ball. He could care less, which is fine. Except for after he got attacked, there would be certain dogs, and I could see the behavior, because he would start running, or he would start circling a dog, and the dog would be laying down, not paying attention to him, whatever, and it was like, uh-oh. And it ended up getting to the point where it's like, well, we're not going to the dog park anymore, because it was just, I couldn't ever regulate when he was going to focus on something versus not.
Also, dogs become less dog tolerant over their lives. So the older a dog gets, the less likely he is going to be. So this is why so many people have an issue when they get a puppy and they have a 10-year-old dog. No 10-year-old dog wants to ever live with a puppy. And so that's why I advocate a lot. Like, if I have a 10-year-old dog and an adolescent dog, and a lot of times people want me to come into the house and go, the adolescent dog is bothering my 10-year-old dog. Okay, we're gonna have, when he is bothering the 10-year-old dog, and the 10-year-old dog growls at him and that's not working, your responsibility is to take that adolescent dog into another room, give him plenty of things to do, or we take the older dog into another room. And we're just gonna say, here's your 2 hours away from the adolescent dog. So adolescence is generally classified, depending, it's a little bit different by dog breed, 6 months to 3 years. So this is the 6 months to 18 months is the most given up age population of dogs. Those are the dogs we generally are gonna see people rehome. Because it's not a cute and fluffy puppy anymore. It is an out of control teenager, and it's almost always boredom. So my biggest thing with adolescent dogs is they need more to do. They need constant puzzle toys. Those are the dogs I would certainly never feed out of food bowls. They would be getting the boxes, they would be getting the food puzzle toys, they would be going on enrichment walks only, but they would be getting a lot of mental stimulation. This is not, oh, the dog isn't getting enough exercise because he's young. The more behavior issues you have with a dog, generally speaking, the dog is going to be more intelligent. So just like with any person, if you're in a class and your intelligence level is way above everybody else, but you're stuck down here, you're going to be punching the kid next to you. So our highly intelligent dogs are almost always the dogs that we have the most trouble with because they are simply bored out of their minds. I'm a big advocate of giving dogs lots of, as much enrichment as I can give them that is as close to normal as possible.
What advice would you give us for the, I have a dog, I want to foster, and never really have done any of that? You know, kind of, that's what you face every single day.
Yeah.
Of like, I have a dog, I want to foster something, and then you also have to think of the lowest common denominator of thinking in that, you know, we're oblivious. The two dogs could be attacking each other, but they're playing, it's okay. But, you know, they're drawing blood and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You know?
So, and again, this is always hard, but I totally, like for me, when I've worked in sheltering systems before, I wanted any new people to come in to have as much training as possible. My first questions are, does your dog ever play with other dogs? And if they say, I don't know, or he's not really a friend of lots of dogs, I'm gonna go, I'm not sure. But if they say, you know, he goes to doggy daycare, and he is like the life, he's the clown of the party. He goes to dog parks, nothing phases him, I'm gonna go for it. Your dog is probably gonna make this work. But the big thing is to just tell people that growling is communication, showing teeth is communication, air snapping can be communication. Not to freak out by little things like that, but to, you know, make sure that the dogs don't have toys to fight over. The big thing I see is that the biggest thing I see is to get people to not view their dog as a Disney character, which is, I know I've said that like 30 billion times, but that's the biggest thing I see is people having unrealistic expectations that their dog will understand sharing. We'll understand that we're just trying to help this poor orphaned shelter dog, right? We have plenty, we should bring him into our home and help him out. And your dog is like, I don't think so. And again, we come from it in a good place, right? It's just, for some people, what I want them to know is donate money instead. If your household, if you want to foster and your dog can't foster, that bless you for wanting to do that, but could you donate money to the foster program instead? Could you come over and walk a dog? So I don't want to turn them away. I want to give them another outlet to help me, but I don't want them to set up for failure if they cannot understand what's going on.
Exactly. because I think the big thing is just education all around. Because you see it every day, even if you're just there dog walking and somebody's there to adopt, we have the runs out front. It'll be husband and wife, 12 kids, one dog, and all 12 kids are chasing the one dog, and you're just going, who's gonna die first?
So this is my mantra. It doesn't surprise me that dogs bite. It surprises me that dogs don't bite more often. Dogs are incredibly gifted communicators. They're really good at not causing major calamity. So, given a lot of, like, again, most of them end well, those things with all the people running around. They looks frightening, but it often just ends up being just fine. So, and that's because dogs are really great at dodging issues. Yes.
Can you recommend a short video series that coverage of these topics?
I'm trying to think of any. So look up Kathy Sadeo, Kathy with a K, SADO. You can go to KarenPryor.com and look at any of the training videos there.
Karen Pryor.
Karen, KarenPryor. Or it's also clickertraining.com. They'll both go to the same place. So I like Kathy Sadeo to follow. Trying to think of videos. Michael Shikashio, I've seen some really good videos that he's done. And so I'm trying to think. So here's some I can give you some podcasts that will lead you to videos probably. Ryan Cartledge, Animal Training Academy. He's an amazing podcaster. Michael Shikashio, an amazing podcaster. Hannah Brannigan has Drinking from the Toilet. Some of her stuff is more sport dog related, so it might not be, but some of her people are really good. Nick Binger, he has a very good podcast. Those are the ones that I really, really like. So any of those podcasters, a lot of them will lead you to videos. So my always advice is some of them get really geeky. Just look at and go, okay, this is not something I would ever be interested in. Oh wait, this is on Canine Communication. Maybe I'll listen to that. Oh no, now I just looked at you and her name totally went out of my head. There is a woman who's done a lot of Canine Communication stuff, and she's not from America. I will think of her name at some point.
It's not Holly.
No. Wolf Park has a really good book on canine communication that you can buy through their website. I know that they have that. I just can't think of this one lady's name. So, but the big thing I tell people, when you look, like, there's a lot of stuff on the internet. But the problem is, it's not very vetted. So, as long as you stick with people, I recommend that you stick with people that have some kind of certification after the name. So, Karen Pryor Academy, KPA, American Professional, APDT, American Professional Dog Trainers Association. They both have recognized certifications for dog trainers. So if you have people that have any kind of letters after their name, KPA, DDVTBT, which is one of the veterinarian ones, just look and see whatever the letters after the person's name mean. Avoid master trainer as a general rule. But look for people who have some kind of learning after their name. You can always email me as well, and I can tell you, like, whether they're, like, Leslie McDivitt was really good for canine reactivity. Grisha Stewart, really, really good for canine reactivity. So there's lots of really good information out there. There's lots of really good free information out there. There's lots of, or very low cost seminars out there. You don't have to be a dog, like you just have to be interested. So there's lots of really good information out there. It's just that you want to make sure that whatever they're saying, to me red flags are the words balanced, using the word alpha, using the words dominance, if using any kind of electric shock collar or prong collar. Again, I'm not going to be freaked out about prong collars as much as if a person's walking a 90-pound dog and they only weigh 20 pounds. I will probably try to help them train the dog a loose leash walk, but I don't want people jerking the dog around by the prong collar, hanging the dog by the choke chain, using words like throw the dog to the ground. So if I start to see that, those are going to be red flags for me that I'm not going to trust their information.
I had a question when you were talking about how like one dog might kind of corner a dog.
Mm-hmm.
We've noticed that our dog, she will actually corner herself or put herself in a small space when that other dog is not understanding her communication, like kind of back off, like I'm not into that. She'll go into a corner. She'll start to show her teeth, start to snap a little bit. How would you proceed from there? Like with
So she's probably trying to go into a corner to protect her flank.
right.
So I would probably try to get that dog out of there so she doesn't feel trapped. I would just let her get out of the situation so that she doesn't feel defensive.
So at that point, it would be okay to like grab the foster dog
Absolutely.
and then
Right, yeah. So,
and then try again later
Yes.
and just regroup.
so what I want to reiterate is I'm not freaking out by a few little teeth showing or a couple of growls.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm talking about 25 minutes of growling, snapping, hair raising, dogs pitting other dogs against a fence, cowering, I'm not going to let that go on. But what I see a lot is tiny little bits of communication and people freak out. So again, this is why it's a fine line, right? And that's why I want people to understand how to break up a dog fight, because if you are empowered to know how to break something up, you might be more willing to let behaviors work out instead of just jumping in. But again, I'm always going to jump in, especially if there is a huge difference in size. I have a very elderly dog in place or something like that. Or I see that, especially if it's my dog, I'm always going to be very protective of my dog. I do not want my dog to have a bad experience because of it. I was trying to help another dog. So if my own personal dog is the dog getting stressed, I know that dog the best. I know what that dog's life is like. I'm going to protect my dog and make sure that my dog has a good experience.
Our dog is usually very playful. It's just sometimes if it's an adolescent dog that's just a little bit too much, or if she's just decided, hey, I don't like this particular dog for some reason, every once in a while she's a little selective. So
Right.
that's the only, caution.
And sometimes we just have to go, okay, this dog isn't going to work out for us, but we know she's fine. So it's better for her to be fine with 90% of dogs
Right.
than push her into that 10% and then have her be fine with no dogs.
As long as it's a smaller group, or it's just there's a few dogs every once in a while,
Right.
she's just like, I like you.
Right.
So.
Yeah. So let's go humping. Humping is okay. All right. Don't freak out about humping. Does not mean dominance. Adolescent dogs hump when they play. Adolescent dogs just hump because it's fun. There's a lot of reasons dogs hump. I'm generally if they're humping me, I'm walking away from that. That's usually a dog that doesn't have enough to do. So again, if one dog is humping the other dog, if the other dog isn't bothered by it, and especially if the other dog goes, that you stop the humping and the other dog goes, what are you doing? We were alive, this was okay. I'm not gonna freak out about humping. But if the dog being humped is constantly trying to stop the humping, and the dog humping doesn't get it, I'm gonna stop that. So people like, oh my God, he's humping the other dog. He's not gay. And it's okay if it's 2 boy dogs and 2 girls. It doesn't matter. So humping is very misunderstood, but it's a very adolescent behavior. And dogs will often hump when they first meet each other. It's kind of like a stress thing. So again, I'm gonna look at the other dog. If the other dog is being bothered by the humping, I'm gonna stop the humping. If the other dog is like, you hump me, I'm gonna hump you, we're all fine, whatever. You go, have fun. So things like that, this again, a very misconstrued thing is humping. So, and again, it's because we are embarrassed by it. It's like when dogs sniff people in places we don't want to be sniffed, and we're like, oh, I can't believe my dog did that. But again, the dog is like, well, I don't care. I eat poop. And no, you cannot stop your dog from eating poop. He's gonna eat poop, and he likes it, so.
Then he's gonna lick your face.
And then he'll lick your face. Yes, he will. It's one of my great things. If anyone's an inventor, I'm looking for a way to make cat poop a dog training treat. Because cat poop is the #1 dog training treat there is. I just don't think people will put it in their pocket. If you can help me find a way to take cat poop.
Casing?
Yeah, we call it like crunchy on the outside.
Yeah. That's what I was gonna say. It has the right amount of litter.
Cat snacks, yeah. So there is something about cat poop that I seriously think there is a fortune to be made. And we're wasting all that cat poop going in the litter. So, I don't know, somebody who's an engineering degree, we need to come up with that, because I swear to God, I would have a lot of dogs come, yes, I'll work for you.
Real quick, could you talk about the level? You talked about like a big payday.
Oh, right. So it's called jackpotting. So when I use treats, first, lots of people freak out about treats because we don't want to make the dog fat, right? Which is why so dogs are great. You can cut back on their kibble. Like if somebody could cut back on my food and not let me have it, I would lose weight too. So, but we can always feed our dog less if we train our dog a lot. So, I'm always using treats about the size of my little finger. So when I do hot dogs, I cut the hot dog in half, I cut each of those halves lengthwise, and I dice it. So I might get 30 or 40 treats out of a single hot dog. But if I want the dog to like know I'm super excited, I might do what's called a jackpot, meaning that, okay, here's one cookie. Oh my God, I'm so excited that you did this right now. I'm gonna give you a whole handful of cookies. And I'm gonna be more excited by that. So the dog goes, oh wow, that handful of cookies was really good. And I wanna do that. But a lot of times it's our tone of voice as well. One thing to think about, dogs have less than 3 seconds of association. If your treats are across the room, they're in your pocket, in a baggie, and you have to move your leash to the other hand, and you have to dig into your pocket, grab the treats out, open the baggie, that ship has sailed. So you have to be able to reward that dog within seconds of a behavior happening in order for that dog to understand why he's getting rewarded, which is the other thing with punishment. People punish dogs way after the event. So people who punish a dog for potting in the house, they come home, they find pee on the floor, taking the dog and punish the dog for that. The dog has no idea why he's being punished. Too much time has gone by. So rewarding and punishing, they are fast. You do not have a big window of that. So for anyone has ever heard of marker training, you can think of it as clicker training, but it can also be a verbal marker. The reason we use a marker like yes or good is to act as a bridge to say food is coming, I'm slow. I am never going to get you that treat within 3 seconds. But if I say good, right when you looked at the other dog, and then I give you a cookie, you're going to start to understand good marked the behavior that you are getting that slower reward for. But it is really important for us to mark behavior and to be fast. That's the biggest thing I see in training. We're stingy with our food, we don't pay a high enough value treat, and we are really slow in paying the dog.
But what about dogs that aren't food driven?
So this is a good question that I get a lot. So then I have to look at the dog. Is he dying? Because he has to be food driven, or he would be dead. So usually when I have a dog that people say is not food driven, I have a couple of questions. I want to first know that he's had a dental exam and that he doesn't have any cracked teeth. Then I want to know, have you tried hot dogs? Because usually when people say their dog isn't food driven, they're using kibble, Cheerios, or a commercial training treat. And for most dogs, that's never going to cut it. So I use Rawble, which is RAWBBLE, which is a freeze-dried raw food. I use real meat a lot, but let's say my dog isn't interested, it doesn't matter. Then I'm looking at stress. Stress is the #1 reason dogs will not eat a treat. So if I have a hot dog and I think that my dog likes hot dogs and my dog will not eat a hot dog, I'm now worried about what's going on in the environment. So most people, when they say their dog isn't food motivated, it's like dogs that are reactive. They're trying to give the dog food while the dog is too focused on the other thing, or the dog is fearful of strangers and the dog is barking at people and people are trying to throw food to the dog and the dog's not eating the food. That's not because the dog isn't food motivated. That's because the dog doesn't even know food is happening. He's just too over aroused for the food to make any difference to him.
Okay.
So that's where I'm going to go first. First, I need to know that I have a paycheck that my dog accepts and that my dog likes, and I'm going to pay a higher paycheck for the harder work. And then I need to know, is there a medical reason my dog isn't eating? Does he have an upset tummy? Does he have a cracked tooth? Then I'm going to go, okay, is my dog stressed? Is he not eating because he's hyper-focused on something that is not allowing him to even perceive the fact that I brought steak tartare to the table?
So breaking the hyper-focus, so my personal dog, I can't say she's not food driven because in the house she's fine. Outside of the house, it took me forever to leash train her because if she was outside the house, I couldn't get her steak.
Right. So that's where I for sure am going to make sure I'm using meat, or I'm using a freeze-dried raw food like Rawble. And I want to make sure that the dog, that I just go out the door, throw a bunch of that food on the ground, and go right back in.
Okay.
So that the dog understands that
hyper-scanning
is not needed. So you have to find that place where the dog can go, oh my God, there's food on the ground. Where did this come from?
Okay.
And that's also sometimes when we need to bring in a veterinarian. Because if a dog is so over anxious that it cannot perceive that I have really high value stuff with me, I may need a veterinarian to step in and go, do we have a more serious anxiety issue that we may need to consider some kind of medication to help bring that anxiety down so the dog can go, oh, you do have steak. Okay. So that's when we look at meds, usually what we're looking at is not fixing the dog. The meds don't fix the dog. We're looking at bringing the dog's anxiety down to a level where the dog understands we brought something to the table and that something might be beneficial to the dog. Other questions? Okay, everybody said, I have lots of questions. And like, everybody's like, oh my God, we ate pizza and now we got to take a nap.
No, it was just so much great information. I was just saying that, like, it was nice to be empowered to, like, kind of put our pet first, and that we're not going to be bad fosters just because we let the pets communicate or whatever. Because when we go to the dog park, there are other people that are just like, oh, the dogs are doing this and doing that, and we're like, yes, they're good dogs. But it's just nice to hear that's okay, and to, like, let them figure out and just kind of feel empowered in that way.
So there's a really good book that just came out called Meet Your Dog by Kim Brophy that's all about meeting your dog. That you have a dog and that your dog comes pre-programmed with some hardwired rules. And but it also breaks them down by breed a little bit, so and even dogs of mixed heritage. So I really love Meet Your Dog by Kim Brophy. It's a really amazing read. And everybody should read Don't Shoot the Dog by Karen Pryor. It's about dolphins, by the way, not dogs. She started out as a dolphin trainer because you can't force a dolphin to do something, they're bigger than you. Other questions? You guys have my information. Please never hesitate to reach out if you have questions. My website, I write an occasional blog post, so you can go read back through the blog post. There's a lot about communication. There's a lot about canine enrichment puzzle toys and things like that.
I had one more question. I wrote it down. I forgot. How do most dogs feel about crates? Because I've been told, oh, they're denning animals. They feel safe on there.
They're not denning animals.
Thank you. So how do they actually feel about crates?
So it's however you taught them to feel about the crate. So we get, again, this is where we get people who are putting too much human emotion sometimes on the crate. I like crates for adolescent dogs or dogs I don't know, because I also have cats, and I don't want to come home and find out that something happened to my cat.
Or they ate something that
or they
hurt them,
ate some, right. So, but I spend a long time making my dog's crate happy. I also travel with my dogs a lot. My dogs are often in my car, in my crate, for hours at a time. Because when we are at search and rescue trainings and stuff like that, all the dogs have to be in their vehicles. They all have to be in crates. So crates are just part of my dog's life. But for them, crates, especially the car crate, we're gonna go somewhere fantastic and have a lot of fun. So, because crating is very important to me in my lifestyle with my dogs, especially if I travel to a hotel, I don't want to leave my dog in the hotel room running amok. So crates are very important to me. And the crates are also important to me because I've done a lot of fostering and I always want to be able to have a place to park my dog. Now, as my dogs have gotten older, my parking lot became a bedroom, and now all three of my dogs will go into that one bedroom on the queue bedroom, which is how I open the door for the pizza man. Pizza man is not coming into my house with 2 German Shepherds and a Chihuahua. It sounds horrible at the door. So I make that fun. So the problem is if we do not make the crate fun, or the dog is left in the crate for too much time, those are bad. But they don't have a natural affinity for the crate. It doesn't necessarily make them feel safe unless you trained it. So it's a training thing, not a normal natural canine behavior, but nor is it jail. Like people who go, oh, I can't put my dog in the crate because he's in jail. He's only in jail if you make it jail, right? So it's all about training and but I always want to have a safe place to park my dog. The other thing I like about crating is anytime we talk about natural disaster, war, anything like that, if you have to evacuate, your dog has got to be in a crate. That is not the time to train your dog to be in a crate. So I personally look at it as a safety feature as well. I want my dog to love being in his crate.
Okay, is it helpful to foster animals, like as far as them being adoptable and adapting to a new home? Is it helpful if they're crate trained?
Yes, almost everyone, well, many people are happy if their dog can be crated. Because it's just, again, it's a safety tool. And it keeps the dog from eating your house until you get to know it.
Okay.
Other questions? Well, you guys were a very good audience. I hope this was educational. I hope you got out of it what you needed. All right, go forth into the sunshine.